Great big ball of fire in the sky today, say the weather people right here on the George Show on 710 KNUS. Happy hump day. It's so exciting to be able to say that on only my second day on air this week. 87 degrees the high. I will say that stepping outside this morning and going from the garage to the car, which sits outside, it was chilly. Billy, I don't know if you noticed that. There was a bit of a breeze there. I went back in and grabbed a jacket. I haven't done the jacket thing. Like I wore the long sleeve shirt yesterday, but I haven't grabbed a jacket in a while. It makes me wonder if fall is in the air. Big ball of fire tomorrow, 93. Ball of fire and cloud on Friday, 92. And then it's anybody's guess after that. Some lightning bolts on Sunday. Remember how yesterday there were lightning bolts on like 3 consecutive days across the weekend? Nope. Now Saturday, the lightning bolt's been replaced by a ball of fire and a cloud for 90 degrees. 10 degrees colder on Sunday, game day for us. Lightning bolt, and then showers on Monday. Who knows anymore, like what's going on there. But it was chilly out, and it was an unhappy chilly because I'm like, dang, are we already in fall? Some people, maybe fall's their favorite season. Billy, are you a fall guy?
That
you know what I
personal.
mean? You know what I mean? Like you're
Sometimes
to blame, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do like fall quite a bit. It's that probably is, probably my favorite season. I mean, there's some things about spring that I like, but as a whole, except for the raking of all the leaves, I like fall. That's, the grass is starting to go to sleep. We're not getting a lot of the snow. Luckily, I really enjoy, my wife and I had a conversation about that, how we're going to have to start raking the leaves soon. And
But that means you have nice trees.
Oh, we had an arborist because we had a couple of trees have some issues, came over a couple of years ago. And the guy walked around the yard and went, whoever put these trees here knew exactly what they were doing.
Really?
Yeah. They said, these people picked these out. This is not something that whoever did the basic construction did. These things were picked specifically. He goes, these are really unusual for this area.
What do you got in the front yard there?
The front yard, one of them is an autumn blaze, and the leaves turn a beautiful burnt orange to bright red. And it is ridiculously beautiful. And I forget the one that's next to it. I don't remember.
I'll look at some colors here. This is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. It is gorgeous.
But I want trees that are going to grow to be big enough that I can put a hammock between them.
Oh, yeah. This one is huge. This thing's taller than the house.
How fat, though, is the trunk?
I don't know. It's fatter than I am, which is kind of large.
Folks, get on the Rumble and the
Exactly.
YouTubes if you're looking. Billy's going to stand up and pirouette around.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got another one, and the leaves, I forgot the name of it, but the leaves turn a dark purple. And so it's just really, really pretty. And the backyard, we've got a couple. The one that is the most unusual is it's a tree. No, it's a tree that is native to parts of China and Japan. And silkworms actually feed off of it. And it's bizarre. We call it the spooky tree, but it grows up and then straight down. And so it has all these dangly, thing all over. It's fantastic.
Perfect for Halloween, it sounds like.
And well, what happens is both the cats and the dog love it because it creates kind of a canopy that they can go inside and sit in there. And it's cool. And they get to hang out underneath the tree. And it's a really bizarre tree.
Does it have leaves that come off of it?
Yeah, big ones, big green ones. And they fall, though, late in the season, and also doesn't bloom until late in the season. So the cool part is it spends like Halloween and things like that looking really, really scary because it looks like a lot of really dangly fingers, and it looks very ominous.
You can hang stuff from it on the Halloween holiday.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I bemoan fall only because the days get shorter, and I look outside and I think, my God, 10 minutes ago it would have been light at 8:45 p.m.
I just think it's fewer minutes to screw up throughout the day.
Yeah, although you do it in the dark, I guess that's how it works.
Exactly. But then people can't see.
I guess I love the football and baseball postseason when my teams are in them, but since the Rockies haven't sniffed the postseason in a while now, and of course,
very kind.
That's the gate. That's the gatekeeper, by the way, to Phil Weiser coming onto the radio, or so.
We haven't talked about that. Yeah, that we got a message back from Phil Weiser's office that said Phil will be happy to join us when the Rockies win the World Series. So I sent back the gift that said, so you're saying there's a chance. Yeah. Although I got a very nice letter from Lawrence, the PR
Pacheco.
guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Last week we were asking him about 14th Amendment and whether or not the AG had and it was short and terse, but it was very kind.
How can you be both terse and kind? Thank you very much, Billy.
Yeah, but from what I expect, it was really nice. And it was a nice response. It wasn't normally, why don't you take your head and insert into this body
Yeah,
orifice?
but what legal words do they use that accomplish the same thing?
Yeah, that's exactly.
I didn't know. You haven't told me this.
Yeah.
What'd they say?
They basically said that it isn't an issue right now in Colorado.
Oh,
it
that's
hasn't
helpful.
Been raised. Yeah, hasn't been raised. And that Jenna Griswold, Secretary of State, who we also reached out to, would probably be a better person to talk about it at this point. And, please feel free to reach out if it happens.
This has become the latest trend.
Yeah.
Dude becomes hyper proactive when it's some politically advantageous issue for him. But if it's something that it's like, well, nobody reported to me the judges are violating the law and it's a misdemeanor, and I'm a purported law enforcement guy with a badge in my wallet that I put on social media. Nobody told me about that.
Yes,
but on this, it's like, well, nobody told me about that either.
Yes, but he is going to go around and do listening tours. I heard he was in Grand Junction
proactively.
Yes, proactively.
I need to know.
Yes, I need to know what you think about the Safeway.
How do you feel about the frozen food aisle at Kroger versus Safeway at the Old Kings?
Yes, who has the better ice cream? That kind of
such. I just gotta wish he just had the guts to. And I promise you, man, if there was such a thing as a liberal version of 710 or whatever, and I were in elected office, I'd be on it. I've never said no to a statement or interview from Kyle Clark or anybody else in the media. It feels like that's what you do. This guy has more interference run for him. I think he tweeted out at least twice yesterday something about we're always going to stand up for abortions or something like that. And it's like, dude, a non-issue here in Colorado.
Exactly. Yeah.
Come and let's talk about a real issue. The idea, though, that they told you it's not an issue yet, put that sucker to bed, man. Say, hey, it's the Attorney General's interpretation that the 14th Amendment provides no vehicle to bar Donald Trump from the ballot. Boom, done, over.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah. So,
but they're not going to do it.
No, they're not going to. No, but it's okay. There are all sorts of things. He's worried about that he's protecting abortion, but let's talk about where we're going to put homeless camps and how that's going to work.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll weigh in on stuff like that too. I missed he was going to speak the next night at that thing I talked about yesterday.
Oh,
I couldn't do it because I was up in Montana doing the whole funeral thing, but I wanted to sit there and listen. I had questions.
Yeah,
and I don't know if they would let me ask them.
You would have done the middle school thing and brought spitballs, just slowly
No,
just while he's talking.
I would have done the Glenn Close in The Natural and stood up with the light behind me to draw his attention.
Yes,
but not to folks and just be like, I have a few questions, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let's begin with numbers like 3 in a 3-month period before you start to think they're not getting it when it comes to stolen cars. How's that working out?
How's that going? How's it working? Speaking of getting it, it looks like Mayor Johnston will join us early next week.
Get out of town.
Yeah, it looks like
touchdown, Billy.
Yeah, we're getting there. So it looks like Monday or Tuesday. We're trying to figure out.
And remember, our goal is regular appearance, like monthly, if at all possible, like we do with the chief and stuff like that. And you know what? Cool. We ought to reach out to Mayor Mike Kaufman, the other Mike.
Yeah, I did already once, and I'll follow up again.
You know what? Yeah. Let's just complete the hat trick. Can we reach out to Mayor Yemi Moblade or whatever? He seems like a super nice guy. And as long as he's willing to have the conversation, buddy, those are the 3 biggest cities in Colorado. We would be talking to mayors representing somewhere around 45% of the state of Colorado. That's kind of a big deal.
Let's see what we can do.
Maybe 40% of the state of Colorado. What are we talking about? 700. 300. No, I was wrong. More like 25%, maybe a little more.
Good.
Yeah, still, that's pretty good. Those are some big cities. Last night, you had to work again.
Oh, of course. Yeah, last night. It's
Which
more
bar?
Trivia. This was Blue Spruce. That was good.
That's like a regular hang for
it
you.
is.
Are you Norm yet there? Like, Billy?
Yeah, I'm there. No, not at all. And it was okay. The crowd was good. I ran into a technical issue that I'm just getting so mad with that. So something that I've got to spend a little bit of time trying to figure out this afternoon, where the music decided, how about we don't play again?
Do you have to call India for a help desk? Like, I'm sorry,
I'm trying
Billy.
to avoid that. I've already done some searching this morning, and so I've got a couple
They're
of
so
things.
Very sorry for what you're going through.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things I got to go through, but this is rather annoying. This is the second major thing with this laptop that's less than 3 months old that I'm running into. So
Microsoft, Dell,
Lenovo. So
yeah,
and so we'll see. Well, I'm trying to avoid sending it back, but that might be what has to happen.
Did you buy it, or is this the company?
Oh no, I bought this thing. So
buddy,
I know, which really sucks.
I don't know why you did Lenovo,
Yeah,
but
so
I ended up.
it had to do with the price and what I had and what was on it. Well, it was
buy one, get one free.
No, I know the price was good, and it had the right number of ports that I needed. I needed quite a few ports coming out of it in order to do the thing that I do. And a lot of the laptops at that price point don't have the number of ports that I need. They don't have enough USBs. They don't have an HDMI.
They're not portly enough.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have the USB-C. They don't have things that I need.
But can't you get a little thing that you can plug into any old computer to expand the ports?
Yeah, but those can be a little iffy. Sometimes they don't. If I'm expanding them, if I'm
more
plugging it
iffy
in,
than the laptop.
Yeah, it has to do with sometimes, and it's the dongle. Sometimes the dongles,
now
when you're running two
really
things into it, it can be kind of an issue. So normally you can use those adapters to create a port that you don't have, but running multiple things through that same port sometimes becomes problematic. Saying. Yeah.
Usually it's when the dongle dangles.
Exactly.
You run into some connectivity
and it's when you have lots of other things with the dongle and you're trying to put the dongle into too many things that it just doesn't work.
And don't loan out your dongle because it never comes back in the same condition.
No, it never does.
Never.
There's always just chafing.
Someone's touched it. I took the boys down to Colorado Springs last night. So it's a late night for us.
Yeah.
There was at the Pikes Peak Performance Center, whatever it's called, Performing Arts Center. There was an interesting thing. I'd never seen it before. Jeff had heard about it, but they played the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie, but there's a live orchestra.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of those.
But I've never been to one.
Yeah. Been to one of those at Red Rocks. Yeah,
it was pretty cool. And what was interesting was it was much clearer and crisper, the music, in a different way, because it seemed like it was there because it was. But there were times where I lost myself in the movie and I didn't even realize they were right under there playing it. This is a movie, by the way, folks, I'd seen in the theaters twice, just by virtue of different kids were available at different times. That's what dads do. And I fell asleep in both of them. So for me, there were parts of the movie. It was first time, right? Like the first 15 minutes, I've never seen the first 15 minutes before because somewhere around, and Jeff at one point is like, Dad, is becoming a problem. And I'm like, yeah, it's only a problem because we see movies at night. Let's see movies during the day when Dad's armed with a Celsius or something.
Yes, exactly.
But it was really good. They had an intermission, which I thought was unnecessary for me, but apparently the band people need to use the bathroom or something. But so they provide an intermission. We come back and the nice conductor lady is there and she stands up to announce, hey, this is a symphonia or something. It's an all-female orchestra, and it is a majority women of color orchestra or female. I can't remember the exact words she used. And, I found myself just instinctively clapping because, when people clap, you clap and stuff like that. And I remember thinking to myself, I feel uncomfortable caring. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like, why do I give a damn? Right? Yeah. Like, it's a neat, but why was that the thing they advertised? Yeah. You know what I felt like, is this a sign of our times that now it's not enough that I enjoy what they do? And I was really taken with the skill level and the passion. And I mean, the strings part that they played, there are a couple really great things in there. And now I'm being confronted with, in my opinion, the politics of it. That's what it felt like. And I'm like, damn it. So I didn't say anything to Graham and Jeff because I didn't want to be like, this is dumb. But I was like, why was that an issue? Why did we have to highlight that?
My guess would be just because it is the unusual nature of it, that normally you do not have an all-female orchestra. And again, I wasn't there, so I don't know how it was presented.
Yeah.
But that would be my idea, is that you're doing this unique thing, and the unique thing is being accompanied by this somewhat unique group of performers. And, that's what I would assume, because we would all assume that it was co-ed sitting down. And so, but depending on the presentation and how they presented it,
majority people of color thing. And I'm like, is that it now with music? Now I have to care about that with good classical music? Because that's what it was. It was like classical accompaniment music. Do I have to care about that? Do I need to, does that make it sound better to me? Am I more impressed because, oh my God, it was people of color working the violin and the cello? Like, I don't care. Like, it almost bothered me to the point of thinking, when are we going to get past giving a damn about that? Like, when are we just going to be able to be like, you guys rocked?
Well, I think the thing would be that we'd probably get past caring about that when we treated everybody the same. That'd be the thing. That's the only reason that it probably pops up. And I understand the politics inside of that, but the idea being that
it just feels like we're never going to treat people the same as long as we continue to highlight that we're treating people differently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a story from Vassar University just last week that a number of their female professors are suing the college because of pay differential. they're paying
This
them.
is Vassar Women's College?
Yes, the
Holy
women's
crap.
college. Yes, one of the oldest women's colleges in the country
Wow.
is being sued because they are paying the female teachers less than the men teachers. And again, that's part of the reason. So
that's an interesting lawsuit. Has the school
Yeah.
responded with anything?
haven't
like,
seen
well,
anything
you're
yet.
not as smart.
Yeah,
or
I haven't
something
seen
like
that
that.
yet.
Like,
But again, if it was a bunch of male professors coming there going, we're not getting paid as much as the women, you go, it's faster. You know, you kind of. But the idea that it is the women's college, it's like, hey, ladies, get the degree, go be all you can be, but don't get paid as much. I just
that I understand.
Yeah.
But if they were to have announced yesterday, like it didn't faze me at all that it was a leather skirt wearing tattooed conductor that came out there that did this.
That
but
makes it more interesting to me.
If she,
like, this is going to be good.
It wasn't like tuxes and all that stuff. It wasn't like that. This was
what are we going to do here?
This was like My Kind of People symphony. But
yeah,
had she stood up and said, everybody, every person here is a white male, I don't know what the response would have been, but it wouldn't have made the music sound better or worse. And
the thing for me is the female thing. I agree with leaning into the idea of there a majority of them people of color, but maybe because those people of color have been or underrepresented in symphonies in the past. Yeah. But the idea I think that is unique because of the women. The idea that that also contained a series of minorities to me is less interesting as far as the fact, but maybe that's the reason and it would be I guess it would be better for me if she would have stood up there and said, historically, members of minorities are only this percentage of this. And now this is fantastic that we have all of these that are here with us.
You know what?
That
in
could have
context,
been better.
But it just seemed to presuppose the idea that there was value in the fact that it was all women.
I get that.
Dudes were discriminated against in the forming of the symphony. By the way, nobody raised their hand and said, why can't guys be on this symphony? Like if you had said, hey, no women are on this symphony, people might have been like, why would, but why did they reverse Augusta the symphony? You know what I mean? And just make it but it just felt weird to me. And maybe that's my generation. The boys, they didn't care. I mean, they were like, again, I don't know that it even resonated with them as a thing other than, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I just felt like weird. Like I'm clapping for something that didn't change my appreciation.
We're finding out a lot about you.
I don't know. It was just weird. Like, why do I have to give a damn about that?
I wish they would give more context, honestly.
Yeah, maybe the context would, and they had the time, but it was a 20-minute intermission.
I'm sure they did. And so that's just bad messaging, in my opinion. But I understand the idea, pointing out that it's all female orchestra. The minority part of it, I would need to see more of the idea that, hey, that's X percentage, etc. And this is why it's fantastic.
Maybe that's it. I just felt like at one point, oh my God, hey, women can play instruments, folks. Look at this. Like it was a circus or something. Like, hey guys, look at that one. Make the keys work on the piano. Like,
never heard of that band called Heart or the Go-Go's.
Right. Yeah, the Bangles.
Yes,
with the dongles.
Yeah,
and all the other stuff and the dangles. Look, I was like, I thought we were past all this, but we're not. Apparently, it's a big deal still. I just, I wonder if we'll ever get past it.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that even inside of music, that it doesn't exist in the pop world, but in other genres, there is a bias to and for and against women in some genres, especially inside of rock and inside of country. There is a definite bias against women as lead singers and lead vocalists. Really? Oh yeah,
like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and Taylor Swift is, but she's pop now. And if you go back and listen to her country stuff, but again, she was one of those unicorns early on inside of country because you didn't have a majority, you didn't have a large number of female voices. You have Shania, but you have Shania Twain, but then you can roll off Garth and Eric Church and Luke Bryan, and I mean we could go on and on and on that list. So it is kind of underrepresented, especially if you get into the rock side. I mean, it was unusual. That's
probably true. I hope that's not the case moving forward, but
there are some good ones out there. Motionless in White. You've got,
you by the way, gave me some street cred when I was driving around with Dale from up in Billings. His three daughters, one of whom is 23. She just graduated college. Another one, a junior in college, and another one 17. And we're driving around, and they were introducing me to the concept of these soda shops that they have now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if we have them here. They say we do. I've never seen them, but they're like, it's almost like Dutch Brothers, but for soda. And you can order these different drinks in them. Some of them have enough caffeine to blow your face off.
Excellent.
And so I'm driving around
those in the morning,
and they're putting some music on and stuff. And I'm like, you guys ever listen to K-pop?
Hey,
and they go,
nice.
What do you mean? What do you listen to? And I'm like, you ever heard of Blackpink? And they're looking at me like, hey, old man. And now all of a
Nice.
sudden, though, but then they took it to a different level. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I listen to Blackpink, but there's a newer group called, and I'm like, I got to remember these names so I can tell Billy. I remember none of the names, but it was some other it was New Jeans.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I'm sitting there having this conversation and I'm like, I've just bridged 30 plus years of time.
Yes, you have.
Because of Billy's little nuggets on Blackpink, the K-pop group. And folks, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're in good company, because until Billy played it for me, I had no idea what Billy was talking about either. And then I was listening to it at the house, and I remember Jeff was like, what are you listening to?
What is this?
This is weird. What's going on? I'm like, it's K-pop. And he's like, why the hell are you listening to K-pop, Dad? And I'm like, well, it sounds neat, and I'm just, and it's weird. It's like, I don't know how else to describe it. It would be like if they came home and found me crushing Elden rings on Xbox. You know what I mean? They'd be like, an out-of-body experience. Like, Dad, what's going on? How do you even know how to use the controller? And I'm like, wait, hang on, watch this. I'm about to slay this boss, and they'd be like, whoa, you're using the words. Like, what's going on? Like, where's our father?
What have you done with him? You're obviously an alien.
That was the same experience these girls were. And it was just a moment of cool for the guy, for just a moment. So
I'm glad I could help out. I'm glad to help out. And I showed you Baby Metal too. That's the next one.
Yeah, you did. I need to immerse myself a little bit more in it. So when I run into kids, one, I think it scares them a little bit when you know their magic.
Yeah. It does. I remember this was a number of years ago, and some of my daughter's friends were over, and I turned them like, hey, you checked out the new Lizzo track yet? And they're like, what? She hasn't been track? I'm like, it's this and this and this and blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards they wouldn't listen to it, and they're like, it's really scary. Your dad's right.
Yeah.
Like, how did you know?
It might be like if your kids came in and sat down and said, Dad, I want to talk about how I might be able to convert some of that 529 money into some sort of a Roth IRA.
Exactly.
And honestly, what are your thoughts on a reverse mortgage for you and Mom? You'd be like,
wait a minute.
What the hell?
Yeah, what
are you
talking here?
You're using words that you shouldn't be using.
Exactly.
You can't say IRA and not be referring to the Irish Republican Army out of school. I mean, what are you talking about?
This is bizarre.
And so maybe we got to continue to do that, like understand the teens or something like that.
Oh, yeah. We
It used to be with Amanda when I'd have her on the radio. It would be get to know your teen. But she has outgrown us, apparently, and maybe because of her location on the planet Earth. But
might have something to do with
it. Not that super excited anymore. But nonetheless, that was a great moment. Thank you. It was
good. I'm glad
and the soda thing is something.
I'm gonna have to do that. We have to get one of those here.
Apparently, and the drinks are ridiculous. One was called like the Butch Cassidy, and and it has things like Mountain Dew and Red Bull, like together.
Ooh.
Like Mountain Dew and Red Bull and some kind of a syrup, a watermelon syrup and something else. I asked him, do you have a calorie-free version of this as a jest?
Yeah.
And they said, yes, all of it. Would you like that? And I'm like, yes.
Yes, I
would.
Yeah.
And that's what really kept my resting heart rate at a steady 105 throughout the memorial service.
Yes.
I mean, I was burning calories because on the inside, I was running a 14-mile, kind of a race right there. It was
it's like, oh wow.
Oh yeah.
It was like that first time you had Jolt Cola. Remember Jolt?
Oh yeah. Whatever happened to Jolt?
I think it was taken off the market for legitimate reasons.
Like health reasons?
I would assume so. I don't know.
I feel like Jolt could cure the COVID.
Oh yeah.
It would the COVID would be run out. It would just be like, we can't keep up. Keep up.
I remember being at a sleepover and falling asleep and then waking up around 4:35 in the morning, and one of the guys is sitting there and he's in front of the Nintendo and he's still playing, and he's got probably maybe 8 empty cans of Jolt.
Holy
and he's like,
smokes.
I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, you haven't gone to sleep? And he's like, no, I'm almost gonna get this. I think I'm gonna be able to. And you can tell that it's like, oh, that's way too much Jolt. That is not a good thing. I don't think he slept for like 5 days.
After 6 cans, it begins to act like formaldehyde.
Yes,
and it's just prepping you for the next life. You know what I mean? Like, so when people find you, they can just put you in a pine box and lower you into the ground. Like, he went out with a bang.
But you're still twitching as you're going down.
Yeah, he got the high score. I finished putting his initials in. Back when you could do that. Listen, started to get some texts in here. folks, of course, commenting on the ports and the dongles and all the other good stuff.
I love you guys.
And then interestingly, and we had this conversation off the air, and then we'll cut away for a break, but Eric Manning texted in and said, Ken Buck has some splaining to do over the January 6th letter, the same one you and I had printed off and we're talking about. Maybe we'll end up covering that this morning. I reached out to Congressman Buck to see if
that'd be
he's available. Yeah.
The only thing the thing that we'd have to talk about is it's awkward. It's unfortunate.
Hang on, not your dongle again.
No,
Don't go there.
Truth. What's the truth and what's the facts? And that's all we have to look at.
You get so caught up in the dumb stuff.
I know it is.
Stupid. Like facts.
It is stupid. It's completely
Would
stupid.
you please focus on the emotion of the moment, buddy?
Yes, it's about how you feel, and your feelings should define your reality. That's exactly how we should do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm feeling like we should go to break.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know.
Just because they force us to, and we're within the red zone right now.
Yeah.
We're in the range. All right, let's do it. And then we'll come back. We'll get caught up on the local legitimate news.
Which may or may not have facts.
Sure you know what? That. Maybe you should build that into like 3 truths and a lie, but do it with stories.
Yes,
it's
I like that.
You choose the news almost fits that. Like you could have 3, you could do 4 you choose the news stories, one of them a complete lie, and really having to figure that out would be tough because some of the stuff you find on the dark web is just redunculous.
There's some great ones today.
No, really?
Oh boy.
And we have a sponsor?
Yes.
Well, let's do this then. Let's just punch out right now, get back for the legitimate news, and then after that, we'll cut away, come back. For You Choose the News, it's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler coming back at you here, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show when both the fire alarm in the building goes off and Billy is required to fulfill his FCC-mandated duties of making us smarter on the live, local, legitimate news. Without further ado, William?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'm leaving the door open.
But you're brilliant to be doing this while it's going on behind you. It's just wonderful.
I like the alarms. I wish we get the flashing down the hall. I wish we could get that.
The timing couldn't have been better.
That would be perfect. We've got very dry air settling in behind our departing weather system yesterday. This dry air will remain over Colorado. Can you hear the fire alarms?
I just like the voice.
Yes, exactly. Walk to the stairs. We got a big ridge of high pressure. It's going to remain in place over our region and keep a dry westerly winds flowing across our state. Ridge is going to then move back to the west and allow several cold fronts to push across, mainly eastern Colorado, bringing much cooler, unsettled weather beginning on Sunday. I love hearing that. Okay. It's funny. Inside a radio.
Folks, you know, I can't even tell you where the stairs are.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you know where they are, Billy, if this thing catches on fire.
I do know where they are, but
I'm gonna have to break a window. I'm gonna have to go die hard with a chair.
I will show you where the chairs, where the stairs are, but it'll cost you $10.
Interesting.
I'm just saying.
This isn't like the bear thing where I just have to outrun you.
I
really,
absolutely
have to outrun the fire.
Because last time I checked, you are flammable. But we can test.
Despite all the jolt.
Yes, exactly. Oh, a teacher. I love the alarm. Okay, it seems so appropriate for what we're doing.
It just feels like the kind of sound that we would be on a star cruiser of some kind taking fire.
Yes, and
brace for impact.
One of the things about radio is you learn to ignore almost every single emergency warning in the world because you have to work through them. So
I begged Kelly, by the way, to just cancel the radio this morning when they put out that, hey, fire alarm tomorrow. And by the way, why are you doing it now? Like the only 3 people that can learn from this are you, me, and Lou.
Exactly. Nobody else is in the building. Yeah.
So like, who are we training up on this? Or is it just to see if it works?
It's just in case.
You put it on at noon, for God's sake. Put it on during Stefan's show.
Yes, exactly. But no, it's always in the morning.
I don't think they want to save Stefan.
No, they don't. I was going to say something. We're not going to say that. Okay. There's a teacher who coaches sports at Cherry Creek High School under investigation for criminal obscenity. The release, said Cherry Creek School District notified the police August 23rd of an alleged incident involving criminal obscenity with a teacher who's also an athletic coach. Employee has been placed on leave, and the district is doing an investigation.
That sounds so super sketchy. Obscenity, while it exists, that screams First Amendment subjectivity stuff there.
Especially criminal obscenity.
Criminal obscenity. I don't even know what the hell that is. Buddy, I can't name a statute that's called criminal obscenity. I'd have to take a look. There probably is something out there, but never seen it.
This is how we are wired differently. You're like, oh, what's the legal law? And I'm like, what do you have to say to make it criminal?
Yeah, like, can I see it?
Yeah, I'm like,
whatever it is.
What words? All these words are going through my mind going, well, if I put them in this order, does it become, how do I get there? I'm more interested in getting there. You're like, what's the law? I'm like, how do we do this?
And when you're a teacher, you're thinking, obviously, this is part of some other charge, like an attempted sex assault or some sort of grooming behavior.
Yeah,
But just legal obscenity. This is crazy. I don't even know what the hell this is.
I know.
I think it's the alarm.
Stuff. Yeah, I think it is. The Federal Bureau of Prisons elsewhere is searching for a missing inmate, Edward Verdugo, 49 years old. He walked away from a minimum security correctional facility in Inglewood yesterday morning. He was discovered missing approximately 10:30 in the morning. Described by authorities, Hispanic, black hair, brown eyes, 5'6", about 210. According to a release, he was serving an aggregate 109-month sentence for conspiracy to distribute heroin, possession with intention to distribute the heroin, and possessing a firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking. Also, the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office is asking for tips because they found a man dead in July along the Highline Canal Trail. They say if you know anything about the dead person or what may have happened, give them a call. They also have a man that is suspected of breaking into 2 homes and assaulting homeowners while he was completely unclothed. Yes, he was naked, and he was arrested in Edgewater on Monday. My favorite part about this is 33-year-old Stefan Heel was taken into custody after he was tased by police in an alleyway. I love that. Had to tase the naked guy in an alley. That's my favorite visual.
Sir, put it down. Whatever you're holding, put it down.
Yes. So he allegedly forced his way into 2 separate homes, fought with the homeowners while naked. That's a lot of fun.
That's awkward.
Yeah, I know. How do you fight the naked guy?
You want to fight back, but you don't want to touch.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, everything's a little moist. It's not good.
Or seepage. Yeah.
The 17th Judicial District Attorney's Office filed charges yesterday against a man accused of throwing a hatchet and a sledgehammer at a Brighton police officer. That's odd. I know.
I am Thor.
I love the fact that he has both. Somehow he has both the hatchet and the sledgehammer. Yeah,
and he had to pick one over the other.
Exactly.
Was he in a hardware store?
Well, no, it said the victim
and an all.
the victim arrived home in a plane. It said, shoot, okay. The victim arrived home and found an unknown man armed with a metal pipe inside the house. Officers arrived, spotted the man entering the yard on the 400 block of North 7th Avenue. Residents identified the man, Matthew Lucero, 34 years old. He went into a shed in the backyard.
Was he naked?
Nearly an hour? No, unfortunately. That would have been splinters.
This feels like modern Denver Adams Clue. You know what I mean? Exactly. He did it in the shed behind my house with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
He was naked.
He was in a shed and hung out there for an hour or so until they finally get him to come out. He then came out and threw the sledgehammer at the officer and then the hatchet. Yeah,
a hatchet too. Like, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
Exactly. Like that's gonna happen. They have the guns. I have a hatchet. This will work out well for me.
But it does get you to wondering, if you're the cops, like, what else is in there?
Yeah.
Is it a pitchfork next?
What else is he gonna come
Is
out
it a
with?
saw blade? Is he gonna go Arnold Schwarzenegger commando on me? Like, what is this?
Yeah, like a big giant Chinese throwing star. Oh well. They eventually shot him with bean bags, and he retreated back into the shed. Several minutes later, he came out and was taken into custody. Still fully clothed, though. A little disappointed there. I know. Gilpin County Sheriff investigating after dogs at a boarding facility were left abandoned without food or water. It's the just like home dog boarding, but only if you're a psychopath. The warrant led deputies inside. They found 13 dogs on the property, and they quickly worked to get the dogs back to their owners. The former McAuliffe International School principal, Kurt Dennis, filed the lawsuit against the DPS, alleging the district fired him in retaliation for publicly speaking out against the daily pat-down of students in the wake of the March shooting at East High School. So he's saying this termination was related to him exercising his First Amendment rights, and that's the reason. But isn't he the guy that... Oh, well, never mind. We'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Is that it?
No, and then people are upset about the micro-communities that Mayor Johnston is doing. A lot of the communities are like, hey, we want to save the homeless, just not next door to my house. That's all I got.
Yeah, the NIMBY thing is real.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be real big.
I've been a NIMBYer. I still will be a NIMBYer. Like, I think we need prisons. I don't think I need to live next to them. I mean, I'm all good with that. By the way, this just in, I was right. There actually is some obscenity charge. I've never seen it, never charged it. Here it is, 18-7-101, the definition of obscenity. Here's what obscene means. Subsection 2 means material or a performance. I presume this was material. The average person applying contemporary community standards would find that taken as a whole appeals to the prurient interest in sex. That's right out of a case law. It depicts or describes patently offensive representations or descriptions of ultimate sex acts, normal or perverted, actual or simulated, including sexual intercourse, sodomy, and sexual bestiality, or patently offensive representations or descriptions of, I mean, I don't even think I can say some of these things, but all the things someone might do to themselves.
And so if you do that, it's criminal. So now I'm kind of wondering, was it something that was spoken? Was it perhaps, maybe it was it's a school thing. So maybe it was a diorama. Or maybe shadow puppets.
Think if you like...
Look at the dog. Dog barking. Roof, roof, roof. And look what happens to the doggy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
That dog's in pain.
Yes.
I don't know, but now I'm really interested to know what this is.
Yeah.
Because the defense would be, it doesn't lack serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value.
And
this is art.
And the other one would be... have you seen how the kids talk in the school? This is absolutely at community standards.
The community I'm in.
Yes,
this is standards.
This is standard. Absolutely.
Promotion of obscenity. Here, how about this? Wholesale promotion of obscenity. Wholesale, different.
Rather than retail?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Wholesale promotion of obscenity to a minor, if knowing its content and character, such person wholesale promotes to a minor or possesses with intent to wholesale promote to a minor any obscene... Wholesale, I don't understand.
As long as it's cheaper, that's it.
Wholesale, is it volume? Is it a discount?
I think so. I think it's discount. Yes, it's discount words and
actions. It just keeps saying wholesale. Wholesale promotion of obscenity to a minor is a 6th class felony.
Wow.
Dang, that's legit.
I imagine it's like one of those things you had with the look like a little diamond, and you say, here, pick a color, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
But to an adult,
open it up. What's the word you get?
To an adult, it's only a misdemeanor.
What?
Yeah, and I get that, I guess.
Okay.
Here's wholesale promote. Means to manufacture, issue, sell, provide, mail, deliver, transfer, transmit, publish, distribute, circulate, disseminate, or to offer or agree to do the same for the purpose of resale.
Oh, so my diorama thing could work. That could be.
I wonder why there isn't like wholesale distribution of drugs as opposed to just distribution of drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
And then there's a class 2 misdemeanor, which is just promotion of obscenity. So it sounds like if you go wholesale, it's worse. If you do it to a minor, it's worse. So if it's just typical, Kelly doing his normal promotion of
Yes,
obscenity,
yeah.
second-class misdemeanor.
Okay.
But if he ends up going wholesale promotion,
Yeah.
like G does, then to a minor, then it's a
That's not
6-class
good.
felony.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Well,
one.
listen, that we've learned something here on
We
the show,
have.
folks. There is such a thing as legal obscenity
There's
in
a
the state
reason.
of Colorado.
Yes, this is why you tune in.
That's
Because of
right. Well,
knowledge.
I feel like I've robbed us of a little bit of the You
Oh,
Choose the
no.
News, but we're
We are
coming back.
smarter.
Yeah, we're coming back. We're coming back. You Choose
Now I'm
the
gonna
News
make you
right
dumber.
after this. George Brauchler, 710, burning down the house, KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Well, I've done it now, man. Listen, let's see what magic you can do here in about 3.5 minutes. Good luck.
Oh, boy. Alrighty, you choose the news. Funny stories, weird headlines. They pay us to do this. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, okay. Here we go, sir. Here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, just spreading the love. Headline number 2, advertising can't be wrong. Headline number 3, awkward memorial. And headline number 4, like Wizard of Oz, but with swans. Alrighty,
Advertising.
Sir. Advertising can't be wrong. And Mr. William C. Gardner has been advertising himself as the best cosmetic dentist in Albuquerque, except for the fact that his license has been suspended. Yes, the 53-year-old is now in a no-bond hold after a state grand jury earlier last month, indicted him on 1 count of practicing dentistry without a license. His license has been suspended, but he has decided doesn't matter. He's still going out there and doing the dentistry, and that includes being sued by several former patients for not doing the stuff right. Yeah, but who knew? Alrighty, sir. Second choice. Just spreading the love, awkward memorial, or like Wizard of Oz, but with swans.
Awkward memorial.
Awkward memorial. Driving north out of Philadelphia, you get into Elkins Park, and you'll arrive at a cemetery in less than 10 minutes. And then you turn off Broad Street, and there it is, faintly visible from the road, a large stone cross. No, this one is not honoring our Lord and Savior. It's honoring the Nazis.
No, what?
Yes. There is an actual memorial to Nazi collaborators in Elkins Park Cemetery, just north of Philadelphia. It is dedicated to the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the Schutzstaffel,
Why?
and that is the SS.
Why?
The slab was erected by veterans groups about 30 years ago, and nobody's really noticed it until now, and now there are complaints.
Veterans of what?
Of the they love the Nazis.
Oh,
so yeah.
God.
Alrighty, and your final choice, just spreading the love, or like Wizard of Oz, but with swans.
Let's go swans.
Oh,
baby.
yeah, this is a great one. We're going to Slovakia for this one, and this is unprecedented. Recently, there were heavy rains, and it flooded out the swans' natural habitat, so they they started to take up residency in local farmers' crops. Not that unusual until you realize what those farmers are growing. They are growing poppies. And now the swans love them some poppies.
I bet you they do.
And the swans are very, very high. In fact, the farmers are having to go in there because the swans are a protected species and having to slowly and carefully remove the swans, one of which I've seen on video was so inebriated he couldn't walk. The swan was so messed up. They're actually taking the swans to detox and then going to try to re-release them. But you know how it is. Once you get the free drugs, they're probably just going to come back. But yeah, they have become addicted to the poppies. So I never thought that I would be uttering the phrase swans on drugs. That's a new one for me. But yeah.
Wasn't that a Duran Duran song?
Yeah, I think that was Swans on Drugs. I think they played that last week at Red Rocks. So,
were they at Red Rocks?
Yeah, they were. They played, and our very own Stefan Tubes was there.
What?
Yeah.
Reliving his glory days.
Yeah, I was going to go, but my wife was ill, so we had to give up our tickets.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, that was crushing it.
Thanks for the
Enough of my
tickets you didn't
sadness.
give
Back
me,
to you.
Nonetheless. Hey, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, listen, there's a bunch of texts coming in. I want to comment on them. I also want to get caught up on this Ken Buck stuff. We might even have a special guest. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. So much going on. It's kind of hard to juggle it all. Some things in the news. I think I primed the pump a little bit with this conversation Billy and I had off air that I was reminded of when our friend Eric Manning texted in about a letter that Congressman Ken Buck, he from the Fighting Fourth Congressional District, that's my congressional district, former district attorney and former assistant U.S. attorney Ken Buck. And it was a letter that was penned on September the 1st. So not that long ago. I mean, if you're looking at your watches, folks, I believe today is the 29th of September. It's actually the 6th. And there was a letter that was sent in by a guy named Tom Watkins, vice chairman of the El Paso County Republican Party. So not just a bystander. This dude's a grassroots guy, totally active. El Paso County Republican Party. It's a big one. In fact, it may be the biggest one in the state of Colorado at this point. And he had written a letter, and it was referencing the January the 6th detainees. And by detainees, I mean those folks of the 1,000 plus that had been arrested over the course of the investigations and all this other stuff and had been brought within the criminal justice system. I know that there's ongoing stories out there about these guys being held, guys and gals, being held without bond, and that they are being subjected to a whole bunch of horrible conditions and that their rights are being deprived and all of these other things that have been going on. And so this letter gets penned and sent out, I think, blast to the GOP. And Republican Congressman Ken Buck, nobody's version of a liberal, by the way. If you remember, Ken gets swept into office back at the time of, during all the time where the Tea Party was in its ascendancy. The guy was Tea Party, right? Like in 2010, and then he gets elected to Congress in 2014, and he's up for re-election again for what I think would be his 6th term. If I don't have great math skills, I'm still caught up on this legal obscenity thing. But nonetheless, his 6th term, super fiscal hawk, no doubt about it. I mean, dude really cares about what monies get grabbed up and spent by the federal government. Very conservative, big Second Amendment guy. And I tell you that by way of background because this letter, and I'm not going to say it's controversial because I don't think it's controversial, but what I do think is there are some in the party who hate this response because the narrative is so contrary to what has been put out there. And I know it's been put out there because you've texted me on it here, and folks have called into the radio show to talk about it, the deplorable conditions, and that there are jillions of people being held without bond, and they're in a dark hole underground where they can't have access to medical treatment, food, water, or attorneys and stuff like that. And former prosecutor, current Congressman Ken Buck sent this letter. It got sent out, and I appreciate this, by the way, about David Williams. David attached this. He's the chair of the state GOP party, attaches this letter to an email that got pretty broad distribution. And I say that because I got it, and I rarely get anything from the GOP, but I do get the stuff from David Williams, and I appreciate that. In fact, Billy, aren't we due for another David Williams interview or something like that? But let me just read you some of the highlights of this. And the reason I do that is I want us to be in the business of facts and the truth and evidence of each of those things. A lot of times we do things like, and I'm going to use a term that I can't remember who it was from the other day that used this term last week, but it was connect the dots. Connect the dots. It seems like many times we skip through connecting the dots, like 1 through 100. We just go 1 to 100 and then declare we know what the picture is. Oh, it's a puppy holding a machine gun, when in fact it's a gavel or something like that. And so I want us to be in the business of facts. And these are the facts as laid out by Congressman Ken Buck. And I'm going to read to you portions of this letter. It's a 4-pager. It's out there. If you can't find it, well, I lied to you already. Looks like it's a 4.5 pager, 4 1/3 pager. If you can't find it, let us know. If need be, we'll post it, but it's out there. Just search for it. And it's a letter that Congressman Buck addresses to Todd Watkins by name. He goes through a letter that he received by email that got sent out. Here it is. You recently sent to me by email a letter concerning the treatment of the January 6th defendants while in federal custody. I understand that your letter was electronically forwarded to the Colorado GOP Central Committee, and in reliance on the statements contained in your email, more than 200 members of the Central Committee have signed indicating full concurrence and support. It appears that this letter was generated to request action by the Colorado Republican members of the U.S. House of Representatives. I write in response and caution that I represent only my views. So it's clear what's going on here. Colorado State GOP received this letter. They signed on to something urging action by Congress. And Ken Buck's going to say, this is why I'm not going to take the action that you request. It's because it's built on faulty premise. This is, again, the letter from Congressman Buck. The letter makes a number of factually incorrect claims and then proceeds to overstate the threat to our republic based on these false claims. There have been significant misinformation proliferated on the internet about the status of the January 6th defendants, and I assume these internet rumors are the source for much of the incorrect information contained in the letter. I hope this response will help clarify the situation and that you will cease disseminating false information. Folks, this is the former chairman of the Colorado GOP, the one that preceded KBB, that preceded D-Will. And he is telling the vice chair of one of the most significant parties in the state, this is false information. Please stop disseminating false information, and that it's gotten off the internet. Many of us, many of the folks that listen to the show and participate, and by the way, I love the participation. You can do it on the text at 710 KNUS app, but you can also call in. Many of us have done whatever internet research we have, and it's just, it proliferates. And it becomes this vacuum where the only information that's allowed inside is just the information off of certain websites that get spun into other websites, that get spun into other websites. And pretty soon it becomes the truth, because the way the algorithm works for all these social media things is they keep feeding you the things that you've looked for because they think it's what you want to see. And then you think it's the truth. And what I appreciate at least about the onset of this letter is Ken Buck didn't have to write it. He didn't have to write this. Lauren Boebert didn't write a letter in response. Doug Lamborn didn't write a letter in response. By the way, those are our only three members of the House of Representatives who are Republicans anymore, which is its own sad, sad crime. But there he goes. He writes this letter to correct folks and say, listen, here's what's going on. I care about this. I was a former prosecutor. Here's what he says. Your letter claims, for instance, that hundreds of individuals have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses or detained, quote, pending federal charges. In reality, no defendants have been jailed, quote, pending charges. All were charged prior to arrest. Do you know how you know that's true? Because they were all indicted by a grand jury. That is the charging document. Police didn't just show up and handcuff these dudes and throw them in a cell. They were all charged prior to being arrested. He talks about specifics, and he cites things in this letter, citations to other facts. The number of detainees has fluctuated with the number of cases brought and resolved, from 56 detainees in the spring of 2021 to 40 in the fall of 2021 and 20 in the spring and summer of 2023. Think about that. You've been told, and you've maybe believed, hundreds are being held without bond, without access to medical care, without access to safe conditions, without access to attorneys. It's 20 as of the spring and summer. I go back to the letter. Of those still currently held in custody, 85% are charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer. That's a felony. So not misdemeanors. Folks aren't being held without bond on misdemeanors. 85% of the 20 that remain are being held for assaulting a law enforcement officer. Well, I'm telling you, if you're going to hold somebody in custody because you're concerned about their conduct while not in custody, whether they'll come back to court or do something bad, maybe someone who's made it a point to hurt a member of law enforcement, maybe they would rise to that level. Those are felonies. The remainder, that means the other 15%, are charged with conspiracy or possession of a deadly weapon on Capitol grounds. Also felonies. So you assault a police officer, or you possess or conspire to possess a deadly weapon on Capitol grounds. Those feel like good bets for people to hold in custody on significant bonds. That's what it looks like to me. all of these folks are provided with hearings to determine bond and whether or not they get a bond if the court determines they are, quote, a danger to the community, a flight risk, or a high risk of obstructing justice. Another letter from this September 1st, another paragraph from the September 1st Ken Buck letter. Your statement that January 6th defendants have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses is also, his words, pure fiction. All defendants held without bond at any point were charged with felonies. If you believe I'm relying on incorrect data, please provide me with the names of January 6th defendants who have been detained without bond for misdemeanor offenses or pending federal charges. Dang, that's the gauntlet, baby. We do that here all the time, too. You got contrary facts, bring your facts. Don't bring your conclusions, bring your facts. And that's what he's saying here. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I've highlighted some parts here. Your letter misleads the reader by portraying worse conditions at the jail for January 6th defendants than for other inmates. That's simply not true. And he goes through to say, yes, there are some conditions questionable, but not because they're January 6th defendants, because the DC jail sucks. And he says those things have been addressed by the courts. In fact, the court, I think at one point here, held the DC jail in contempt for the conditions overall, not for just the January 6th detainees. Your letter also claims that January 6th defendants were denied medical treatment for pre-existing conditions or for injuries while in custody. And then he goes through, this is what I appreciate about this, by the way, man. Guy concedes there's been at least one valid allegation of abuse concerning a January 6th defendant. A federal judge in 2021, that's more than 2 years ago, held DC jail officials in contempt for treatment of a guy named Christopher Worrell, who denied for months his treatment of a broken wrist. That's a big deal. That's real. But the courts address that. But that's not hundreds. That's not all of these people. Says your letter asserts that January 6th defendants were denied contact with counsel. All January 6th defendants are being held in, quote, restrictive housing. That to me sounds tantamount to what we would call solitary confinement. We called it ad seg here in Colorado until the super lefties in charge of the prison system did away with it long term. But here's why that's true. They're being held in restrictive housing due to legitimate concerns about threats to their safety if left with the general population. So this wasn't a punitive measure. This is a life-saving measure for these people. He goes on to talk about that while it may be more difficult for an attorney seeking to visit with an inmate in restrictive housing, and the attorney has to make additional arrangements with the jail, they've made those accommodations, including continuing cases to assure that counsel have adequate time to meet with defendants before hearings and trial. He goes on through all this stuff, details that he's been a prosecutor for 25 years, talks in detail about responding to some of the allegations that there have been violations of the 8th and the 14th Amendment, and then goes on to sum this up by saying, I hope this letter clarifies the current status of pretrial detainees in relation to the ongoing January 6 prosecutions and also provides the context of why it is inappropriate to suggest that these defendants are being singled out for their political views. More importantly, it is sad that Republican leaders are misdirecting the energy and resources of Republican activists at a time when this country is facing crisis after crisis as a result of the failed policies of the Biden administration. Please encourage our grassroots supporters to help win elections so that we expose the truth about the failed withdrawal from Afghanistan, the open border policies of this administration, the fentanyl poisoning of 70,000 Americans every year, the increase in crime throughout major American cities, and the inflation eating away at Americans' spending power. As we unify over the real problems facing Americans, we can succeed in restoring common sense conservative policies. Mic drop for freedom, Ken Buck, boom. And that, friends, is that. If you think that there's additional information out there that is either contrary to or should supplement Ken Buck's letter, I'd love to hear from you. Do you believe it? Do you believe Ken Buck? Does this do anything to change your mind about what you've been carrying around in your head and your heart about these January 6th detainees out there at the Capitol? I appreciate too that his letter in no way takes sides as to I agree or disagree or these people. It's not like that. He is talking about the mere facts of what goes on out in Washington, D.C. with these January 6th detainees. Only 20 remain in custody, not out on bond or being denied. Only 20 remain, I think, without bond. And 85% of them are accused of assaulting police. And the other 15% have weapons charges. What more do you need to hear? Does this change your mind at all? I'd love to hear. 303-696-1971. Eric Manning, you texted in and said, hey, Buck has some explaining to do. Sounds like he just explained it, right? Like, what's left, Eric? What's the part? Do you just simply don't believe his facts? And I'm looking at the letter right now. I'm holding it up for our special Rumble and YouTube folks. It has citations, numerous footnotes. Every page has, well, except for the last one, which is only a third page, the 3 substantive pages all have footnotes, numerous footnotes to the different information that he makes claims about, publicly available information that's out there. Do you agree or disagree? Does this end that part of the discussion for you? In no way does that change, and nor should it change your conclusion about whether or not you think these people shouldn't be prosecuted for this because instead they were on a tour gone wrong or something like that. Or by God, they were just trying to stand up for freedom. And when you're standing up for freedom, the law should never apply to you. Or it's the police's fault because they let them in. It's not changing any of those things. But for purposes of this part of the conversation, this narrative that we repeat to each other at the breakfasts and the lunches and on the internet about the fact that there are hundreds of January 6th detainees being held without bond and without counsel. Does this end it? 303-696-1971. What do you think? Here's some of the texts that have come in. The letter gave Ken Buck more credibility than I'd previously given him. And yes, I know about the former AUSA stuff. I interviewed in his office. Another text. This is why nobody can take the Colorado GOP seriously. I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned. This is the vice chair of a party, and my guess is there's only 2 options for this guy. And I'm sure he is a good red-blooded American who wants to fight for liberty and is concerned about what's going on at the state and federal. I get all that. But it looks like Todd was either duped, like he fell for all of this stuff that gets put out there by the people who are just looking to get more social media influence, clicks, eyeballs, and all that stuff. They're trying to sell things. Or he really believes Ken Buck's just full of it, that this is all made up, and it doesn't matter what facts Ken brings or not. Ken's part of the problem. That's the concern I have with Eric's text, that Ken's got some explaining to do. Well, wait a minute. What about all the people that are out there on the different radio shows on this station too, who put this stuff out there? Don't they have some obligation to bring proof? Not anecdote, but proof, real proof, not hyperbole, but evidence. Don't they have some obligation to do that? I'm happy to jump on board with the federal government is violating individuals' rights. Let's go get them. But what it sounds like here is where those one-offs have happened in these 1,000+ prosecutions. The court has stepped in to do exactly what the court's supposed to do. But I don't know what else you do with this. Phone lines are lighting up. Lisa from Parker, Frank from Evergreen, the other line trickling in right now. I promise I will get to you right after the break. I don't want to take you and then say, hey, I have 45 seconds. I want to have the full conversation with you, and we'll do that as you stick around. I do want to tell you, though, about Empower Home Team of Keller Williams. Another email this morning with more listings for these homes. And I'm telling you, the only ones I ever look at, I'm on some kind of a listserv thing now, are just the ranches out there in the Douglas County area. I'm just fascinated to see what's going on with the prices. And OMG, man, when you compare the price of these ranches to the first house I ever bought back in 96 in Douglas County, I should have held on to that house. It was like a gold mine. But one house, the price is reduced. Another house, a new listing. Another house, the price increase. How in the heck do you know what to do? How do you know what house to get into and at what price level? How do you know whether you can sell your house for a certain amount? Don't guess. Don't wonder. How stressful is that? Why don't you call a friend? You can call a friend called Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team of Keller Williams. She just surrounds herself with the nicest, most experienced professionals out there. Give her a call and let them answer all of your questions about timing. Let them answer your questions about how to maximize the dollars for the home you've been in and to figure out a way to get you in at a place that makes sense into the house that you want. Even the right type of financing. They can guide you to the folks that can answer those questions too, because they do it all the time. They do it more than anybody else. They sell so many more. Most realtors are good for what? A couple few houses a year. These folks do it by the bushelfuls. They also make you promises no one else does. We'll sell your house for a certain dollar amount in a certain time period. We'll make these promises to you. We'll agree upon them. And then if we don't live up to it, there's money at the other end for you to make up for the difference for that. Check them out at gayhasthebuyers.com, G-A-Y-E hasthebuyers.com, gayhasthebuyers.com, or give her and the team a call at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. That's Gay Ribble with the Empower Home team at Keller Williams. When we come back, Lisa, Frank, everybody else, the text to George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Phone lines lit up, but we've got one open for you at 303-696-1971. Topic, Ken Buck's letter responding to the vice chair of the GOP for El Paso County, writing a letter, getting 200 Central Committee members to agree to encourage the Republican delegation from Colorado. That's 3 of them, by the way, Boebert, Lamborn, and Buck, to take some sort of an action about these many detained without bond for no good reason, no due process, no access to attorneys, in a dark hole, all things horrible. Ken Buck responds. I read you a good chunk of that response, not all of it. And I wanted to get your reaction to it. Do you believe it? Does it change your mind? Do you not believe it? I want to go right back to the phone lines here. Lisa from beautiful Parker, Colorado. You're on 710 KNUS. Lisa, what do you think? Hello, Lisa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Hi. Okay, hi. Yes, I just absolutely do not believe what he said. One thing I want to is, and I would ask Ken Buck this, why don't they release all the videos of January 6th? And why were the police letting people in? I mean, I've seen videos where they're just letting them in. And let me ask you another question, George. I have a couple things I want to say. Why did they not have the troops, I guess the National Guard or whatever President Trump wanted? Why did Pelosi say no to that if he recommended that? But he said peacefully, let's go over and peacefully protest this election. I'm one of those that feel like it was stolen. But I want to say this, and one other thing. Ken Buck just recently met with Merrick Garland at Duke's Steakhouse. And Merrick Garland is not a friend of the Republicans. In fact, he's leading the charge of all these prosecutions, whether you're a Christian at an abortion clinic, mothers and dads that don't agree what's being taught in our school, or the election officials that are being prosecuted in Michigan because they were questioning the election. It wasn't just Colorado or people like me. There were people all over the United States. And until we get behind people that believe the same, we are in big trouble. And I'm just telling you, Ken Buck's been in there for 6, what did you say? This would be a 6th term. I think that all these people that are in office, all the old timers need to go, and we need to get people in there that want to represent everyday citizens and do what's right for the Americans. But this whole group that's led by Biden, especially the the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, he's bad news. And he is prosecuting, he's the one directing all this nonsense.
Okay, Lisa, can I, and I appreciate that. Can I ask you some questions? One, none of that seems responsive to the letter that I read. Do you have information? Do you disbelieve that these people are being held without bond and no due process? And do you disbelieve what Ken Buck says about that? This isn't a debate as much as whether or not January 6th was good or bad. I'm just asking you about the letter itself. Do you have disagreement with it?
I do.
Why?
And I don't believe anything that he says.
Why not? Hey, Lisa, you're breaking up on me just a bit. Can you grab a hold of a fence or an antenna of some kind?
Yeah. Okay. I don't believe me.
I'm losing you.
Can you hear me now?
Little bit better. Yeah. Tell me you don't believe him. Why?
Because he met with Merrick Garland, and anybody that meets with that district attorney, I will never believe. Hold on,
Lisa, can we back up on that? Look, Merrick Garland's the Attorney General of the United States. Not a good one. I don't think he's great at all. I don't want to see him in that position, but he's there, right? If you're a congressman and you want to get to the bottom of something, or you want to find out the truth of something, and you have access to the dude who's at the top of that decision-making pyramid, wouldn't it be reckless to turn down the opportunity to ask those questions?
No. Absolutely not. I would never believe anything that he said.
Well,
and the reason, if you look, George, look what he's doing to everyday Christians at abortion clinics.
Yeah, I know, but Lisa, it can't be that the way government works is if we don't like someone and disagree with them, we're never going to ask them questions. How else do you ever hold? How's Merrick Garland supposed to be held accountable? Who gets to meet with
He's a
him?
lot.
Yeah.
He's a liar.
So that's it.
I would never trust anything that Merrick
Do-
Garland said. And I'm saying he's taking revenge
Do you
because he
take-
did not
do you-
get to be on the Supreme Court.
Do you-
That's the reason he's doing this.
Maybe. Do you take issue
And to
with the
install-
facts
just
in
one more
Ken's
minute.
letter?
I know. And I think
Okay.
think they're trying to instill fear in Republicans not to stand up for elections, because look what they're doing in Michigan. Look what they're doing. Those electors that had the right of office. Look what they did to Tina Peters, who had the right
Yeah, I
of
know,
office.
but
to
Lisa,
take
do you
a
see
look at
how
what-
Lisa, do you see how you've run afield of where we were going here with this letter? I'm interested. You said, I don't believe Ken Buck because he met with a guy that I don't believe. That's the gist of what you're saying. So I'm asking you, back to the letter.
Well,
Are there facts that are put out in that letter that you think are lies? And if so, what are they? Like, where's the evidence for that?
I really believe that these people, that they're not giving us the full evidence of the videos that showed what happened in January.
I know, but
6th.
this
If
isn't
they
about
did
what happened
that,
on January 6th. This is a letter
It-
that is about the allegations that the vice chair of the El Paso GOP put out that says there's hundreds of people being detained without bond or judges or attorneys and all that other stuff. Ken Buck writes a letter that says that is just flat fantasy. And you say, I don't
know.
agree with Ken because Ken met with Merrick Garland. Am I missing something?
You are missing something. The whole gist of this, why these people were prosecuted and why they're being held supposedly without bond, is what he's saying, that they had the right to put bond, is because of what happened in the framework. It was a framing job to get people.
Who's framing
arrested.
whom?
The Democratic government and all the people in the Democratic government, Biden and all those, are the ones that were the ones behind Pelosi. They wanted Biden elected, and they wanted this election.
They
go
orchestrated the events in the Capitol of January the 6th.
I'm telling you, this was a framework. And if you don't believe the FBI and the the Attorney General's office is not leading a charge and prosecuting people because they don't believe the elections were right, then look at those people. Look what happened to them.
Lisa,
and there were people that had diabetic medicine.
I understand, but Lisa,
it
it sounds like, well, I don't know about that. Lisa, it sounds like though you don't have any facts contrary to the ones that Ken put out. That most of it is, I don't agree with the prosecutions, and I don't like Merrick Garland because he's a liar. And Ken Buck met with a liar, so I no longer believe Ken Buck. But you don't have any evidence contrary to what Ken put out in the letter. Is that fair?
No,
you do have evidence. You do have evidence.
I'm just saying this. I will never believe anything that he says, and you got it right. You can look at Merrick Garland and everything that he's doing throughout the United States, and it's people like you, George, that aren't really allowing the truth to come out.
How am I preventing the truth from coming out?
Absolutely, because you know what?
How am I preventing it, Lisa? What am I doing to prevent it?
People need to wake up and know that January 6th, what about the Epps guy? They never, ever said anything about this guy that was encouraging people to come in.
The Epps
there
thing,
were people behind
Lisa, the Epps thing has been long debunked. He just lives on as this mythical figure that everyone, says was somehow a ringleader for 1,000 people. And Lisa, does it matter to you that of those 1,000 people? Hang on, Lisa, hang on. Does it matter? Does it matter
I've seen videos.
Yeah, I get it. Does it matter to you that only one of those defendants so far has been acquitted, and the rest have either pled guilty or have gone to trial, and a jury they helped pick have convicted them? Does that matter?
You know what, George, this is the whole thing for me and many, many other citizens. We all have seen evidence, and they are hiding all the videos that, for whatever reason. I know,
but the videos don't address Ken's letter. Lisa, you'd agree with that. There's no video you're talking about that's going to address Ken Buck's letter, which is a response to these.
Let me just say,
I will back
Dave Williams. because I believe he is a good man that sees the truth. I will never believe Ken Buck. I've even written Ken Buck's office.
Yeah.
And you know what he did? He
No.
wrote me a nice little note saying,
Okay.
And I asked him, why is the prosecutions happening today where Trump's being convicted and Biden's son's getting off?
He hasn't been convicted.
And what about all
He
these
hasn't been
videos?
convicted.
Well, no, he will be though.
You think so?
They're indicted. Yeah, I'm just gonna say you never get a fair trial in any of those cities, as well as DC. As you can see, those people were arrested, and nobody's talking about the police that were involved.
So the jury,
so it's very upsetting to me
the jury
that
system just can't
conservative
work.
radio talk show hosts
Yeah.
don't see that. And I'm just telling you, the world is going to go to hell in a handbasket if we lose this election, and people need to start waking up and seeing the corruption of whoever working behind the scenes. I don't know if our politicians are getting bought off or say, hey, you make this deal, I'll make this deal, we'll get you reelected, whatever. But I'm saying Ken Buck's been in there 6 years. Let's get somebody in new that really will work for the American people.
Really will ignore the facts and go off of belief.
No. And I'm not the only one that believes this way. So
I know, but Lisa, here's my concern. Belief has zero value. Facts have value. Belief is just that. If you say my belief is based on these facts, that's one thing. Then we can talk about facts. But your belief is based on, I don't like Merrick Garland. He's a liar. And therefore, I don't trust Ken Buck because Ken Buck sat and met with a liar. That's ridiculous.
The facts are the videos that are not being put out. Even
there are no videos you're referring to about people being detained. The letter was about these allegations of detention. And what you're saying is, I'm so upset about what took place on January the 6th. Any allegations, factual or not, I'm going to believe them. Lisa, you're better than that.
No. Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch I get his emails, and he said they're not putting out all the evidence. And he said
the evidence of what took place while they were in detention, the evidence of them going to court and being given bond, the evidence of 85% of the 20 that remain being accused of assaulting police officers, that evidence, he's seen evidence that that's not true?
No, they're not showing the evidence of the cover-up and what was going on.
I know, but that doesn't have anything to do with what's in Ken Buck's letter that you don't believe. Those are other issues.
I don't believe these people are being treated fairly.
Based on what? Based on what fact?
Based on the videos.
What videos?
There are several videos showing the FBI or undercover agents being there, pushing these people in.
But what does that have to do with how they're being treated after being charged and arrested, Lisa? You're arguing January 6th. I'm arguing every day thereafter.
Let me say, George, let me say this, hon. If you don't look at how they were framed, then do you believe how they're being treated in a prison, especially a DC prison that's not good? Now, let me tell you, if I was framed and I was set up and I was put in a prison like that, I can tell you they wouldn't be treating me well, because if they can frame you, they're sure enough not going to treat you right in a prison, especially if you're a Trump supporter.
Yeah, even though it's all in a public courtroom with a public judge. And Lisa, I've let you go much longer than I let other folks go, just because I thought there was an opportunity there to get to a response to the letter, short of something other than where we ended up, which was some sort of a conspiracy that has run amok, that involves hundreds of people, none of whom have ever come forward to say they were part of the conspiracy, which is amazing. It's amazing that we can do that in America, but nothing that you said is responsive to Ken Buck's letter, other than I don't believe it because he met with Merrick Garland. That's just inane. I mean, Lisa, that's not logical. He met with someone, therefore I don't believe him. Hey, guess what? Trump meets with Putin. Do we not believe him anymore? Trump can't meet with Putin. Putin's a liar. Putin's a murderer. Can't believe Trump anymore. Come on, there's got to be more than that. Bring the evidence. We got to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. We're going to get smarted by the Alpine Planning folks, and then we're going to get right back to the phones. They're just too hot. Frank, Shane, the other person Billy's talking to right now. Everybody else, I promise we'll get to you. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. That couldn't have been more seamless. I don't know how we missed the time on that, man. But at one point, I was putting an apple in my mouth, and I looked down and I saw, my God, I think we're on the air. So without further ado, we're going to go to a guy who isn't eating any apples right now. He's a wicked smart dude from Alpine Planning. His name is Gabe. Gabe, how are you?
I'm doing well this morning. I'm sure your morning's not very boring, sir.
No, it's been going well. Just best guess, how many seconds of just silence before I got to you?
It was probably a good 30, 45 seconds.
Geez. You know what was happening there is we should have left the mics on. Billy and I were having the kind of banter that the FCC wouldn't appreciate. Nonetheless, let's get right to the good stuff, my man. What's going on today?
Starting off slightly in the red, sir, after sort of a slow start to the month. Currently, we have the Dow down 0.25%, 86 points. The S&P is off 10, and the Nasdaq's off 26. This is sort of continuing with our theme as we saw through August, one of the first negative months we've had in a while, sir. And Brian, Amy, myself, we don't think that there's a big looming risk here in the fourth quarter, but we do feel like it's going to be a little bit of stagnant.
Really?
And a little bit of sideways market. So what we're doing with our clients right now is making some adjustments for the portfolio where can we earn yield and income without taking a whole lot of risk, even if the markets are going to be sideways, whether that be short-term treasuries, some other products we offer. And so I think right now, going into the fourth quarter, there's been a lot of headlines about still a potential recession at the start of 2024. And so I think right now is a great time, especially after the market being up over 20%, to readjust portfolios. So if your listeners need some help with their plan, their portfolio, have them give Brian and myself a call.
Now's the time. Now's the time to get in and start talking about the way forward.
That's it.
Anything you're looking at in the near term that's going to give you a better indication of which direction we're going? I don't know what to believe, honestly, man.
Well, so, it's a great point, George. Goldman Sachs just lowered their possibility of a recession from 15, which was previously at 20%. I think the obvious answer would be the Fed meeting here in a couple of weeks on the 19th and 20th to see if they are going to raise before the end of the year. I think there's a pretty solid consensus that they aren't going to raise here at this September meeting, but obviously there's 2 more left before the end of the year. But with a lot of the economic data with the labor market and things of that nature, I think that they could make a case for keeping them steady through the end of the year, but they have indicated that they may raise.
This is why people come and see Alpine Planning, man. They've got their finger on the pulse of the financial markets, and they're willing to use it for your benefit. Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, as always, it's a matter of trust. They're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Take care, Gabe. Go Yankees.
You be well. Bye-bye.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Phone lines are full, but I haven't had my fill. Stick around. Frank, Shane, and Jacqueline. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler on the George Show. You are halfway through the midweek show already. That's kind of sweet, by the way. If I can put in a pitch to Kelly and Brian, let's go to 4-day weeks. No, I'm kidding. Let's do the whole week. We are on a Wednesday. We're after the 8 o'clock hour. That means less than 2 hours before we turn it over to Chuck Kirk. Then a little DP, Dennis Prager, who was here 1 week ago today. Fantastic opportunity to spend some time with the guy, ask him some questions. If you missed it, you got to sign up next year for what will be the 4th annual Dennis Prager Cigar Night. And then we go right into Seb Gorka, Deb Flora at 3. And then somebody told me Dr. Dunn is going to be in for Stephen Tubbs. It'll be great to listen to him on the drive home. Our lines are full, but that doesn't mean you don't keep calling. It's 303-696-1971. Here's the topic. There was a letter written by the vice chair of the El Paso County GOP, a huge, maybe the largest GOP party in the state. And it was a letter that was calling to action the members of the Republican congressional delegation, which include in alphabetical order, Boebert, Buck, and Lamborn, to take some action about all of the many hundreds of detained January 6th protesters / rioters who are being held without the benefit of court or counsel or bond or bail or medical services in a dark hole somewhere in D.C. Ken Buck wrote a 3.5-page letter that was disseminated by David Williams through the state GOP email thing. I'm on that listserv, I guess. And I read a good chunk of it for you in the 7 o'clock hour by way of saying, listen, these are all facts. There's footnotes and stuff. There's links to the articles that have links to the other facts and stuff. Do you believe it or do you not believe it? And if you don't believe it, why? We had, and I gave her a ton of time, a spirited conversation with Lisa from Parker, who didn't really want to address the contents of the letter itself. She didn't have any opposing facts, but what she did have was the conclusion that she'll never, ever believe Ken Buck because he met with Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland is a liar. I can't wrap my head around that kind of logic, especially when Merrick Garland, whether he's a liar or not, is also the current Attorney General of the United States. And if you're a member of Congress, you have an obligation to try to get information from and hold accountable the executive branch of government. And if you can't do that in person somewhere, even at I think she said it was Duke's, which is a decent steakhouse out there in Castle Rock, then what are you doing? Is the person you meet with, does that dictate whether or not you can be trusted? Because didn't President Trump meet with Kim Jong-un and Putin? How can you trust him now? He met with those people. They are killers and liars. They're despots. Dictators. How can you meet with them? But see, that doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. You would say, well, yeah, but Trump met with them in order to fulfill his duty. Yes, that's exactly right. Same thing with Ken Buck. But we've got full lines here. I want to read you just a couple texts as we get to them. I had mentioned the fact that, and there's numbers out there, folks. In fact, this comes from an article. There's a dude, Enrique Tarrio. He was one of the Proud Boys leaders. He just got sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for his conduct related to January the 6th. Interestingly, not physically present there. He kind of did it all as a keyboard warrior from down, I think, in Florida. 22 years in the Department of Corrections. Feds wanted 30 plus. His own counsel argued for 15. He got 22. There have been 1,133 people charged with offenses related to the attack on Capitol Hill. Of those, there has been one acquittal. There have been 790 convictions and 330 cases pending. I had mentioned the fact that, hey, these people either pleaded guilty or they went to trial and lost. And here's a texter. Plea bargains under duress. This system using threats to charge and harass family members or ruin the family financially if pleas are rejected. It's likely you yourself have threatened more serious charges to avoid going to trial. Let me be clear. I've never done anything like that, nor would I. And my goal is to not try to coerce someone into avoiding trial. Big Daddy like trial. I like going to trial. What I try to do is to try to figure out what an offer is that represents justice on behalf of the community. But I've never once threatened someone, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. In fact, the opposite. My predecessor used to threaten the filing of habitual criminal charges, which are 4-time multipliers on the top end of a presumptive range sentence. And it works like this. You steal $2,000 worth of stuff. It's a 4th-class felony punishable by 2 to 6 years of probation eligible sentencing. You get hit with bitch counts. That's what they're called, bitch counts. It's mandatory 24 years. That's a huge hammer. I ended that practice when I was DA. So you can run your jive by someone else, man, but don't try to accuse me of having used my position to try to coerce pleas. I don't do it. And I've never referenced someone else's family member. Like, if you don't plead guilty, we'll go after your dad or your son. What garbage, man. That just doesn't happen. Plea bargaining makes prosecutors, judge, jury, and executioner overcharged, and or innocent defendants are plea bargaining. Nope. I don't believe that. Would you yourself plead guilty if you hadn't done anything wrong? Would you do that? My guess is, Texter, you wouldn't. Here's another one. With regards to Ken Buck's letter, get Julie Kelly on to respond. I think she's followed the January 6th events and trials better than anyone. That's great. Billy Week, let's reach out. I heard someone else reference this person. They were on Prager yesterday or maybe the day before. No, probably not the day before because it was Labor Day, but I think yesterday then. We'll see if we can get her on. I'd love to have the conversation. I'd love to know what facts she has. From Joan, Ken's letter shows better than most things the complete and deep divide in the Colorado GOP. Well, that's true. We stand almost 50-50 between new leadership and GOP-E. I don't know what that is. There was a controversial vote with the Jefferson County Executive Committee on 8/26, 54-54 to allow an IEC to be formed with the chair picking the players pay to play. I do think there's a divide in the party. I don't think it has anything to do with new leadership and old leadership or establishment. I don't think it has anything to do with that. It has to do with people who are willing to make huge decisions based on nothing more than faith and belief, untethered to actual provable facts. And those people who are bound to facts and trying to defend the institutions that have kept this country moving forward and protectors of liberty since the very beginning of its founding. We're willing now, apparently, to burn all of that to the ground on belief because Tucker Carlson says it, because somebody else on this station says it. And you'll never hear me say, believe me, because I say it. You'll hear the opposite. Don't take me at my word. Go look for it yourself. Why does that make me less credible than someone who announces, I have the truth. This is the truth. You must listen to me. I don't know. 303-696-1971. Frank from Evergreen, you have been patient and on hold, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, George?
It's one of those mornings. What's going on?
Hanging in there? Good.
Yeah.
Hey, first, mega dittos to Lisa. Did an awesome job, Lisa, but, it's kind of hard with somebody as smart as George.
I'm not that smart, man, but I do ask questions.
No, you are smart. So anyway, my opinion is that you don't get the right. You are not the final arbiter of everyone's sifting of facts and beliefs. Everybody has their own way of doing that, and you can't do it for them.
But are you saying everybody has their own facts, or everybody's entitled to interpret the facts the way they want?
Facts have been spoken about many times by many politicians from the beginning of time, and they're very hard things, and you know that. So my point is that there's two letters out there have contravening facts in them. You choose one, and you say that's the facts.
Well, give me the other one.
And I choose another one. I say that's the facts.
Well, give me the other letter. Give me the other letter, and I'll look it up.
Here's my answer to your question, George. But I'm referring to two letters you referred to. One from, I forget the fellow from the party.
I know what you're talking about. You mean the letter from the vice chair that went out claiming. Yeah. His, by the way, it contained no citations that I'm aware of, no references to facts other than things that I think he saw in a video.
So so here's my answer to your question. Do you know who Ashley Babbitt is?
Yep.
You do. So what's the deal there?
Oh.
Here's a woman that died, shot by a police officer.
What was she doing when she got shot? Remind me.
She was in the Capitol.
What was she doing when she got shot, though? Like, was she just standing there looking around?
She was unarmed.
What was she doing?
She was unarmed. And a police officer stuck a gun through a window.
Whoa. He stuck a gun through a window, or she came through the window?
Well, I think that, have you not seen the video? I mean, that's a fairly common video.
I've seen the video. She's coming through the window, man. This isn't some dude who just stuck his arm out a window and started pulling the trigger.
No, I saw his hand come through the window with a gun in it. He fired a shot.
Yeah.
and killed her. Okay, and it was even a review of. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's enough on that subject. But did President Trump say, "Let's go to the Capitol and protest peacefully and patriotically," or did he not?
No, he did use the word peaceful, but this is the question
And
of
patriotic. He said peacefully and patriotically.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a
Yeah, I get it,
a
but
video too.
I get it. But Frank, the question is about Ken Buck's letter. And you've said, hey, I disagree.
You've already chosen your facts, George.
I haven't chosen
there's no
anything.
point in
I've
even
read
talking
to you the
about
letter
it.
and told you that there are links to citations that have the facts. I'm asking you, do you believe those facts? And you're trying to distill this down to simply, well, one person says one thing, the other person says another, and therefore it's a toss-up and you can believe whatever you want. And I say that's garbage, man. If I tell you there's no gravity, you would say, that's ridiculous. I'm experiencing gravity right now along the same lines. Ken Buck says, these are facts. Here are the links to the information.
Well,
And you're
okay.
like, well, I'm
Let's
free to
talk about
disregard
that.
those.
You, based on your knowledge of physics, it's gravity. Based on somebody else's knowledge of physics, it's not gravity.
Is that
So,
how it is, man? Is that
touche
facts
turtle.
are just whatever you believe them to be?
There's beliefs and there's facts, and you're sounding an awful lot like the grumpy old guy on Saturday morning. That's what he used to say all the time.
Man,
here's the thing, George. Ashley Babbitt. That should be enough for anybody. The thing is, and to be honest with you, you're a heck of a nice guy and smart and all that stuff, and I like listening to you.
Well, thank
you. But
you.
you're also exactly the kind of person who is the reason that the Republicans have been losing for 40 years and will probably continue losing for the foreseeable future, because you get so tied up in these details. Is Trump the only guy who's ever
hold on,
denied an election?
Just 1 second. Let's go back with just a fact. You said who have been losing for 40 years. Go back 40 years. I've got simple public education math skills. Since 83, Reagan, Bush, Trump. That's a whole lot of winning going on in those 40 years.
There's losing. There's politicians losing, and then there's losing the nation. The Republicans have lost the nation. Look around you, George.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how
I am contributing to that, man. I'm not sure how I'm contributing to that.
It's the way you speak.
Well, what does that? Hold on. What does that mean, man? The way I speak. I don't fight for stuff that has no factual basis.
Have you ever heard a Democrat? Democrats are winning every day. And have you ever heard a Democrat disagree with a Democrat? No, you haven't heard that. And that's what I'm saying, is that this attitude of the Republicans, and I'm not a Republican, by the way, just for the record, is the reason why we're in the situation we're in, and the Democrats, Republicans have been losing. Look around you,
the
George.
prerequisite,
we're crushing the heads of babies.
Yeah, I get it.
day.
I understand.
And you said that, as long as it's 5%, that's okay.
I've never said it's okay. I've never, buddy, you want to hear things to justify the position that you've taken. I get it. If the prerequisite to somehow, quote unquote, winning back America is I now have to substitute belief for knowledge and faith for facts. Yeah, but man, you've made facts seem like it's just whatever you want them to believe. Whatever you want to believe is your fact, and therefore
everybody distills information and then into facts.
Do this, Frank.
Believe.
I'll put you back on when you go through Ken's letter. It's easily findable on the internet, and find me the facts that are wrong. It's not a waste of time. If you're going to call in and say, I don't believe it because I don't agree with those facts, come up with contrary facts. This is the problem with the Republican Party, man. We are dying because we are drinking the bathwater of a guy who has substituted a cult-like following for real facts, real principles. We don't have principles anymore. We have a guy. We have Donald Trump. When Donald Trump goes away, look around and tell me what we will have stood for at that point.
Did Donald Trump say protest peacefully? And
after saying the word fight maybe 24 times. Yeah, he did. But by the way, that's not the issue here, Frank. The issue here is Ken's letter. And you say, well, Ken's letter is just a bunch of facts that I don't have to believe because there's another guy who says things that I can choose to believe.
I didn't say they were facts.
You don't think Ken has facts in his letter?
I think, you said they were facts.
I did.
Yeah. And, I take everybody's information in and I process it and I come up with my own.
Process it
conclusion.
How? Process it through the do I believe it filter?
This is his letter, and the original letter that went out are of no consequence.
What?
The facts are in front of our eyeballs, George.
Really?
Go
What
to
do your
any major
eyeballs
city
tell
in
you about
America
whether
and
people
look
are
at the-
being detained without the right to counsel or courts?
Go
What
to
do your
any major
eyeballs
city
tell
in
you?
America.
Huh?
Go to any major city in America and look at the homeless on the streets.
What does that have
to-
to do with the January 6th protesters and Ken Buck's letter, man?
Almost nothing.
Exactly.
The thing it has to do with is the fact that
Frank,
cannot see the big picture.
No, Frank, I disagree with you, man. Apparently, I'm super smart and super nice, but I can't see the big picture. Frank, thanks for the call. 303-696-1970.
George, speaking of eyes, because, we talked Frank there, want to talk about what he saw. During the break, I will be more than happy to have you walk in here into the studio, and we will show the video that's been shown numerous times of when Ashley Babbitt was shot. And with your own eyes, you will see the gentleman is on the other side of the door. That Frank, what he represented,
I know,
he
but
said
what
he
you're
believes in
missing,
eyes.
Billy, is he believes
I know, and
she
that's
was
all
on the
that
other
matters.
side. And
That's all that
belief
matters.
substitutes for facts.
Yes.
We don't need facts
Yeah.
in this party.
Not
What
at
we
all.
need are belief.
Yes.
And we need people that are willing to fight based on that factless belief.
Yeah, because that's the way you win.
It's fighting. We just have to fight. Fight. You know who said that? The dude that said fight 20 plus times before he said peacefully protest. And I'm not blaming him for the 6. I don't blame him for that. I don't think he should be prosecuted for that. But come on, man. This idea that what's in Ken Buck's letter is just, well, it's one set of facts and the other dude has some. And therefore, I'll just run it through my filter. Yeah, run it through the fact filter, not the belief filter. Otherwise, you start with a conclusion and interpret everything else backwards. Is that who we are now? What's up? I'm losing my mind here. 303-696-1971. Shane from Denver, you're on 710. Shane, what do you think?
Hi, George.
Hey, sir.
I'm gonna give you a thought here first.
Sure.
The first thought is that I think that you are, sir, Colorado's version of Asa Hutchinson. Okay, you're the defender.
Listen, he's really boring. He's like human chalk.
Okay.
I'm way better than that.
Let me tell you, you're not boring as he is, but you're a defender of the system and the corrupt DOJ. You want to talk about facts? Let me give you facts. Okay.
Yeah.
Trump was under 2 ridiculous impeachments. Okay. We had a fraudulent election because we had.
Remember, the impeachments have
officials,
nothing to do with the DOJ, but go on.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about it does have something to do with the system. Okay. So
It has to do with the Democrats in the House. That's all it has to do with, are the Democrats in the House.
Let's move forward here, okay?
Hold on. Let's not move forward when you use that as example 1 of how the system is corrupt. That was a majority-held House of Representatives that did something that I disagreed with both times. So you and I are on the same page. But to say that is proof the system is corrupt, it is not.
So let me tell you, did those Democrats that impeached him 2 different times, were they worried about facts? The Russian collusion story, is that factual?
Yeah, no, that's garbage.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. That is corrupt. It's garbage because it's not fact.
And therefore,
and he was brought under 2 impeachments.
But and therefore, Ken Buck's letter, what?
Allegation.
Shane, therefore, what about Ken Buck's letter? But how? How does this have?
You want to move forward now? I'll move forward. Okay, Trump. Like I said, the 2 false impeachments. Also, a fraudulent election because the electors clause states that you must have state vote over changes with the election, and they were not done during COVID. Officials changed the election with mail-in ballots that caused Biden to win. Fraudulent election.
I don't agree.
Okay, federal and state indictments that he's under right now. When Biden has done the same thing, Pence has done.
He has not done the same thing. He has not done the same thing. What he's done may be worthy of indictments or charges, but it is just factually false to say he's done the same thing. Why do you feel comfortable saying those words? Prove to me that he's done the same thing. Give me a fact.
Hey George.
Yeah.
Mr. Hutchinson. Okay. The issue is that you are right. Okay. Biden factually has things that he has done that he should be charged, but they're not charging him. They're charging Trump.
Then how is it? How do you say he's done the same thing, but he hasn't been charged?
He has had documents in his garage and other areas that had feeble locks on them, just as Trump had. And
but he's not. But Trump isn't being charged with that.
He is being charged.
No.
Trump is being charged over documents and Biden is not being charged
No,
over
but they're not
You
the
can
same
cherry
thing.
pick-
Hold on, man. Listen, we've talked about this before. They're not the same thing, right? If there are other presidents that have had documents they shouldn't have, I'm willing to agree that that's happened. The difference here is Trump is only being charged for the ones he refused multiple times to turn back over to the government when it was determined that he had them. That's different than Biden.
Okay. Biden hid them better than Trump is.
No, it's not that he hid them. He didn't hide them. Once they were discovered, he turned them over. Now, if you ask me, my opinion is every one of those dudes should have been prosecuted from the word go, because the message should be you don't get to have top secret documents when you're not the president anymore. There are no exceptions. But having gotten to the point where we've said, here's the distinction we'll make. If you just turn them over, we won't prosecute you. And that is de facto what had taken place. When Trump goes out of his way to lie and obfuscate and hide those documents, that puts him in a unique position compared to Obama, Bush, and Biden.
Okay.
Now what?
Trump was not as slick about it. What Biden did was had his people have lawyers comb over his house and give him a few days to tidy things up. And
so you think
then
he's still
the
hoarding
DOJ
documents?
came in,
You
and
think
the
he
DOJ,
still possesses them?
Another fact, the DOJ didn't come over with guns and SWAT personnel to take the documents. They came over with lawyers.
Why do you think there's the difference there? Why do you think that?
Have his lawyers comb over his place. That's a fact.
Why do you think that happened?
Because they were probably scared of Trump and the January 6th protesters, or they were trying to make a big to hit the papers.
Hold on. Buddy, again with the invented facts. Hold on, man. Shane. Remember that the FBI doesn't even show up in marked cars or windbreakers. Who alerted the planet Earth to the FBI's presence at Mar-a-Lago? Do you remember? Donald Trump did. Donald Trump did. So please don't invent a fact that they were doing this to try to get some kind of publicity negative for the press. He alerted the planet Earth to it. They tried to do it very, very quietly. And the only reason they had to do it was because this guy lied to his own attorneys about the records he had. He brought a guy that worked for him that's now in the hopper for criminal prosecution to move documents from one place to another without his attorney's knowledge. That makes him different than Biden and Bush and Obama.
There you go again. You're defending the corrupt DOJ.
No, I'm not defending anyone. I'm questioning your made-up facts, Shane.
Let me tell you, George, do you think anybody was going to fire a shot at Trump's headquarters? Absolutely not.
What?
Okay. The
Trump's
FBI
headquarters
came over. Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Okay, same difference. Okay.
What?
So the FBI came over and were with guns drawn. Okay?
With guns what?
With guns drawn, okay, and in force to take those documents. And Trump,
I don't know if the guns were drawn or not, but it is not uncommon when executed.
They were.
Hold on, Shane.
They were probably drawn. They probably
hold on, Shane. Back up. Let's just recap the last two sentences. I want to recap I don't ever do this, but Shane won't stop. I want to recap the last two sentences, man, and we can play these back. This is the problem with the GOP today. The FBI came out guns drawn. I question him on it. And then he says, well, I imagine they were drawn. I'm sorry. We don't get to imagine when we draw conclusions here about the corruption level of the FBI based on my belief. I just believe it. What is going on? This whole conversation was about the facts put in by Ken Buck in his letter. And I have heard stuff that makes me want to stab my brain. The idea that, hey, well, the one person has their facts, the other person has theirs, and I have my beliefs, and they trump both those facts. We now have Shane, who is a reasonable, smart, mostly reasonable, smart, regular listener who called in to just simply, within two sentences, reveal the entire problem with any conversation about Donald Trump and January 6th. Well, they came out with their guns drawn. Did they? Well, I imagine they did. Are you kidding me? How about our friend Frank from Evergreen? He reached through the window and shot Ashley Babbitt when clearly he didn't do that. But that's okay, because it's a belief. I wanted to talk about this letter and whether or not it changes your mind. What we've revealed here, and I'm looking at texts like this too. Here's someone, Georgie Boy is very naive. I'm naive for insisting that if you want me to do something, you're going to have to prove to me the basis for that action? What I'm hearing here is, well, I disagree because it's not my narrative. It's not my belief. And Brauchler, you're the problem because you won't fight. You won't fight based on a factless belief. I'm sorry. There's only one person I'm going to have faith in without all the supporting facts, and that's a dude named JC. The rest of this stuff, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're not going to get me there with all of this conspiratorial, factless garbage. If there's something there, I swear to you, I'll look it up and we'll get to the bottom of it. Someone brought up this Julie Kelly person. Billy's right now trying to figure out a way to get her out. We'll have the conversation. But Shane, you simply can't call up and announce they came out with their guns drawn and then say, well, now that you've questioned me on it, I imagine they were drawn. We just can't do it that way. I got to cut away for a break here. But before I do that, I want to tell you about taking deep breaths before doing live reads. Folks, I love you guys, but please go back and listen to the podcast and listen to the conversations that we're having and ask yourselves, was there a better way to approach this debate other than to simply say, I believe it, or to announce that the ridiculous garbage impeachments that took place were evidence of a corrupt federal government, not of elected politicians who dominated the House as Democrats, but a corrupt federal government, including the FBI. I'm happy to talk with you about just about anything, but please bring more than I have the belief that. Please bring more than I have the belief that. That belief, that's going to end us as a party. And when we go away, so goes the country. I believe that. Only conservatives are going to save this place. And right now, we don't know what we're doing. We're chasing our tail, and our tail is named Trump. That's all we're doing. Hey, Mitch Flory with the Art of Granite. This guy is a superstar, a guy that chose to become an American and do it the legal way. Thank you, Mitch Floria. That's exactly what we want more of here in America. Someone that follows the law, honors them, and shows respect for the country he wants to be a part of. But then he got here and he didn't say, hey, I'm looking for a handout. Government, help me, save me. He said, let me take my entrepreneurial spirit and turn it into a business, a thriving business that will benefit you. If you're looking for a real patriot, if you're looking to put your money with someone that doesn't just do top shelf craftsmanship work, but a real patriot, it's Mitch Floria. This guy will shake your hand. By the way, if you shake his hand and look him in the eye and go over to his showroom there at about 6th and Colfax-ish, you're in trouble, buddy, because you were going to sign up with this guy and you're going to love that you did. He'll offer you the wholesale prices, but he does more. All you have to say is, hey, I'm a George listener. I'm a 710 listener. And you get the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're only doing the one room, he'll throw the sink in for free. That's just what a good American businessman does. And that's Mitch Floria. And he'll give you his cell phone. Hell, I'll give you his cell phone. 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. That's Mitch Floria. You can find him at theartofgranite.com. theartofgranite.com. We went a little bit long, but we'll come back. We'll continue the full lines with Tony, Joe, and Shane right after this. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here on a very placid Wednesday morning as we go right back to the phone lines. Tony from Littleton, you're on 710. Tony, what do you think?
Well, good morning, George. I've been listening to you pull your hair out for the last hour.
And I just got a cut too. It's very short hair.
Yeah, and nothing is going to change. The rest of your morning is going to be spent this way. At the end of the day, whether it's Joe and Arvada or Frank or Shane or any one of these people, facts do not matter. Just you got to understand, you're arguing facts, and they're coming back with every other possible truth that they can come up with because they've rejected facts. Trump has told them to reject facts, reject the institutions. There's a deep state. Everybody's out to get him, and these people have drank the Kool-Aid. You can't bring them back. There is no Republican Party. There's a MAGA party. That's what's going to win the nomination this time, and pray to God they lose, because if they don't, then your kids and your grandchildren are not going to know a democracy like you did. MAGA has to lose, and the Republican Party has to be rebuilt. But the
alternative is so dreadful, Tony. The alternative, another Biden administration or Harris or whatever, is so dreadful. I think it could be worse.
It can't be. It can't be. And you know what? I mean, we could have a debate about that. And this is going to shock you. This is going to shock you. When Biden leaves office, if he leaves after this term, he's going to be placed in the top half, at maybe even the top 20 of all presidents all time. And you're saying that it's better to have Trump, who is placed below.
Biden's going to be in the top 20 presidents when?
In history. He'll go down as, I know. I don't want to get, I would love to have this conversation with you, but this one would take 20 minutes unto itself, but we can't have that. The point is, what's happening, and the callers that are calling in, they've rejected all facts. And when you no longer can use facts to explain anything, then you're relying on conspiracy theories. And that's exactly what every single caller has been doing to you all morning long, and it will not change. It will not change. You're not changing one guy out there. And Joe is going to come on. It's probably Joe from Arvada next. And this guy is lost. These people are lost. I mean, they no longer can contribute. Let me give you an analogy. If you sat down as a military guy and you said, okay, we're going to have a discussion about how large our Navy should be. And one of the guys says, well, before we get started, let's be clear. I believe the earth is flat. Well, you would tell him to leave the room. You can no longer contribute anymore. Well, that's what these people are. They can no longer contribute to a functioning democracy because they don't believe in any facts. They believe in the conspiracy theories that have been woven by Trump. And that's all they care about. They've drank the Kool-Aid. You're not going to bring them back because you've got Mark Levin and Gorka and these guys saying they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. And those guys are bigger than you. And I admire that you are at least trying to force people into the facts, but you're not going to. You're not going to.
I don't even need them to agree with the facts. What I need them to agree with, though, is the idea that if we're going to advance an argument, please, with common sense on top, be at least tethered to some facts. The problem with the conspiracy thing is it exists because there aren't facts, right? Like, it wouldn't be a conspiracy. If we had all the facts to prove it up, we wouldn't call it a conspiracy unless you were charged with it. But the conspiracy exists in the absence of facts, and the absence of facts supports the existence of the conspiracy. I mean, that's just it.
All right. So this is a shocker. You've got the MAGA party fighting vociferously with you today, defending white nationalists and fascists. I mean, defending them. They've been abused. Why is that? Because Trump invited them into the circle. H.W. Bush rejected them when they came forward and said, we want to support you. He said, no, you are not American. Your values mean nothing to me. Don't vote for me. You don't support me. Trump brought them into the circle. He made it okay. Yeah. And now your audience is defending them. Can you believe that America, we're there, that the Republicans, former Republicans, now MAGA, are defending white nationalists and fascists? And every call that that's what this is about. And you know damn well they did exactly what they've been accused of. And they went through all the court system and so forth. And they're saying the courts aren't real. The courts are corrupt. Everything is corrupt if it doesn't go their way. And the only way you can believe that is if you believe in conspiracy theories. And they do. They do. And that's what you're fighting all day. And you're not going to win one of them. And you better pray, for the sake of your children and grandchildren, that group does not get back into power. And by the way, you ought to go have Billy go pull up Schedule F and the Heritage Foundation and know that's the platform that they're running on right now. And if they run through that executive order Schedule F, you're not going to like, because it abolishes the Justice Department for all practical purposes. You're not going to, that's not a good thing.
Tony, I appreciate the call and the support to an extent. And forgive me, I want to open up your line. Tony's line is open at 303-696-1971. That's the only line that's open. Get it while it's hot. But I'll be honest, you'll never catch me praying for Joe Biden to be reelected or anybody from that party. That cannot be good for America. I am not in favor of that outcome. That's why I'm just so wrecked internally over the idea of having to choose between the guy that's going to win our nomination and that guy. I mean, I'm like, my God, is that the best America has to offer? That's all we have? Jeez. But let's get back to the issue. The issue is Ken Buck's letter. And what facts do you disagree with? Or is it just, again, a belief? I believe Ken's wrong because he's not saying what I want or what I believe in my heart versus what I know with my head. That's what's been so interesting about the calls and the text today. And there's a ton of texts here. I'll try to get through some of them. And that is, I can find a specific case or an anecdote, and those are important to talk about because those could be evidence of something. And I will substitute that anecdote for the remainder of all the other data out there. That will be the truth. Or I imagine things are true. I imagine they had their guns drawn. And remember what else that caller said, Shane said? He's like, well, I think the FBI did it so they could draw a whole bunch of negative attention to Trump. They tried to do it without raising any awareness at all to anyone. It was Trump that outed them. But do you see, that doesn't feed the narrative. If all of a sudden Trump's the one that doing it, it's like, well, then I can't crap on the FBI for that. Well, if the FBI just showed up armed like they would for any other person in our two-tiered system, for any other person in our system, then, well, that doesn't feed my narrative either. I need them to have drawn their guns and to have a big publicity moment because they're out to get Trump. Do you see how that belief is overshadowing your brain? What's going on behind your sternum is taking control of what's going into your eyes and your ears. And there are folks out there that will feed it. Again, I am open to contrary facts. Happy to discuss them here. I let people say stuff. That's the other thing that kind of pissed me off. Lisa from Parker was like, you're the problem. You're keeping the truth from coming out. I invited Lisa on the radio here for 10 minutes to say what she wanted to say as her truth. How am I keeping the truth from getting out there? Here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not grabbing a set of pom-poms, throwing on a MAGA skirt, and cheerleading all the way down towards any narrative anybody wants because it just feeds their belief. That ain't this show. Don't like it? Plenty of other options out there, man. A lot of people neck deep in that bathwater who are willing to do anything possible to defend a guy who shouldn't be defended. That's just my opinion. 303-696-1971. I don't know if it was omniscient, omnipotent, or both, but somehow next caller, Joe, then Jacqueline, then Joan. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Lines are full. I want to get to folks. I promise you I will. But we're sort of stuck here, right? If you look at the clock, you see that we are north of 53:30. That means at best I could have a 1 to 2 minute conversation. And there are some folks out there that would advocate that. Like, yeah, just keep churning I don't like doing that. I want to have a conversation with you. I don't like doing the hit and run radio. That's good for some. That ain't us. As you know, that's one of the reasons you listen to the show is I let people talk. Then we have question and answer time. Some of the answers make me bonkers, but some of the answers make you sound bonkers. But nonetheless, that's the point of this show is I want to have these conversations and get to the bottom of it. So let me read you a couple texts, and then I promise you, Joe and Jacqueline and Joan, I promise we'll get to you. You know I will after the top of the hour. Someone texted in, caller sounds like Ferris. LOL, this guy thinks Biden will be in the top 20 presidents of all time. I don't agree with that. I think he's wrong. Joan here, fascists and white nationalists, a Dem with no facts. That's interesting, Joan. I can't wait to get that call because you've just now called out a caller for having no facts. The white nationalist thing, I think, is provable, by the way, on some of this. But I don't know that you can paint everybody there as with that brush. I don't think that's fair. Here is Joan. What is the source of Ken's facts? Do not line up with the narrative he presents, George. This is the narrative. Joan, it's not a narrative. He says, here's what you said. Here are the facts that are contrary to that. How is that a narrative? This is a restricting coming, and I can't figure out what you're trying to say here, Joan. And you do not want to be on the wrong side. Ask yourself why Ken thought he had to write the response. Like you, part of the old guard fighting back. Old guard will die, but maybe something more positive will come. I ignore Ken Buck and the Dick Wadhams. They are fossils. Joan, and we'll have the conversation, but come on. This idea that you don't want to be on the wrong side of this, if you can give me real facts that can change my mind, that's one thing. But just this idea that I'm just going to disagree with Ken Buck because of his narrative, I hope you brought your facts with you. Here's one. Julie Kelly sounds credible, but I don't recall the facts she uses. It's more the narrative comparison. Proud Boy, 20-year BLM versus something. Okay, we'll get to that. Dems don't put America first. I agree with that. George, I generally see you out on the baseball fields during the season. I'm looking at the bigger picture, and the Trump movement is simply not sustainable for conservatives. With the 100% bogus legal battles going on, those that are Trumpers will not vote for anybody else but Trump, true, which spells doom for conservatives, and there isn't a damn thing you or I can do about it until they realize that Trump is not the answer this time. And I hear other hosts on this station are 100% for Trump, and they're trashing the other GOP candidates. I wish I could read the whole thing. There's a bunch more texts. I'll get there. I'll get there, I promise. Listen, let's do this. Let's take a quick potty break. That's what Big Daddy's going to do. I advise you to do the same, and then we'll come back. We'll hit our full lines, and you keep filling them up at 303-696-1971 or the text at the app. Whew, you are listening to George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's the final hour of the show. Had to move some things around just because the lines have been full, both text here and phone calls. Let me just quickly, for folks just tuning in, where we've gone in the 7 o'clock hour, I read to you a letter, a September the 1st letter penned by the fighting 4th Congressional District Congressman Ken Buck, one of 3 Republicans in the Colorado delegation to Congress. Yep, that's both houses, House and Senate. It's Boebert, Buck, and Lamborn so far. That's all we've got. And there was a letter that was written by a Colorado GOP vice chair for El Paso County, huge party, super influential party, and wrote a letter that got disseminated to the Central Committee that resulted in, I think, 200 different Central Committee members signing off on something, endorsing a letter that called for action by members of the GOP House delegation regarding some allegations and facts about defendants from January the 6th. Ken then wrote a letter in response that Dave Williams was good enough. I think he needed to, but he was good enough to send out to that same distribution list, wide distribution. I got it. I read to you large portions of it on the air, and the gist of it was the facts that form the basis for the demand for action are false and provably false, and they were proved to be false, at least by these links that were put out there. Now we've heard a bunch of people call in, and I want to keep the conversation going. Question was, do you believe him? And what facts do you have to the contrary? Here's what I've heard a lot of. I don't believe him. And I don't believe him for reasons completely disconnected from any facts. We've heard references made to Ashley Babbitt being shot through a window as the video shows she is coming in through the door, or whatever that thing is that she was coming in through when she was shot. And by the way, I don't want Ashley Babbitt to be dead. I don't think she deserved to be shot. I don't think any of that's true. But let's pretty please get the facts right. We've had someone call in and say that the FBI stormed Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence to get documents with guns drawn, and they did it to draw attention to themselves, when what we know is it was Trump that drew attention to it, and they didn't have their guns drawn, but someone believed that they did. I imagine that they did. And then we've had a bunch of other conversations. A lot of texts here. Lot of texts here where people are just, one, coming after me for stuff. One dude said it was Asa Hutchinson, which I take great umbrage at, because I'm far more entertaining and engaging than Asa Hutchinson. That guy's human chalk. Doesn't take anything away from his character or his qualifications or credentials, but the dude is human chalk. We saw that. And then here's another one. George, you're a Chris Christie clone. And I said, that's garbage. I'm way thinner. That is totally true. But he says, beating on Republicans with a feather duster while Dems are hitting us with machetes. I'm not beating on any Republicans. How is it beating on Republicans to say, please justify your belief with facts? Please give me facts. Says you need to get your, quote, facts from someone other than the MSM. Ken Buck's not the MSM. But here's something. Someone said, well, he's relying on some left-leaning media. Does that mean the facts aren't true? And if they're not true, give me the contrary facts. Not someone else's opinion in a letter. Not, well, Mark Levin says. Well, Mark's a great guy, I'm sure. I've never met him. I've listened to the show before. Impassioned, probably way smarter than I am. But because he says it doesn't make it a fact. Bring me the facts. Here's another one. Trump is entitled to run for one more term. There's no MAGA cult. It's simply this. At Trump's age, his constituents, like myself, know that it's 2024 or bust. Those of us that support Trump are more about individualism with boundaries. Boundaries in that of the golden rule. Democrats are like the Borg with no belief in the golden rule. What? By the way, while we're on the topic of justice and stuff, remember the other day we're having the conversation. Some of you cheered on like, yes, I want Trump to engage in political revenge by using apparently our corrupt criminal justice system to go after the Dems. What planet are we on, man? Thank you for reading Buck's letter. More informative than all the Trump supporters who have stopped thinking and finding facts. Yes, you confirmed the facts today, so you have permanently changed my mind. Well, that's nice. Agree with you. The Colorado GOP currently is lost, but will continue to endure the rhino insults. The GOP is not Trump. We had very admirable principles and will continue to support those, not this insanity. Sue, I hope you're right, Sue, because remember the other week I asked, what are our conservative principles that are not tethered to one individual, Donald Trump? Do you know how many we heard? None. Everything that people called or texted in about was tied back to Trump. He is not our party. Our party existed before him. Our principles existed before him. And I'm concerned that they won't exist after him. That's part of this entire conversation that we're having. Let's go right to the phone lines now. It's Common Sense time with our good friend, Joe from Arvada.
Hi, George.
Sir, how are you?
Got so many things to address there, but I want to start by addressing the person who addressed me in their rant, Tony the lefty liberal.
I think it's Tony the Tiger.
Tony the lefty. The Trump supporters, he said, are supporters of white nationalists and fascists. Here's the thing. You got a problem. Just this weekend, Laura Loomer interviewed the Nazis protesting in Washington, and they all said the same thing. They don't support Trump. They support Biden. And why do they support Biden?
Why?
Because he sent their actual members to fight in Ukraine for the Azov battalion. And
What?
she
What are you talking
identified, just a moment, she identified.
No, I'm just asking you, what are you
just
talking
I'm
about?
going to answer your question. She identified members that were standing there have been identified as CIA operatives that went over and fought in Ukraine for the Azov battalion under the CIA guise. And yes, feeding information from the CIA to the Ukrainian Azov Nazis. If you don't believe me, go let your lying eyes and ears find the truth on the video where she interviews them and takes pictures of the individuals that went to fight for Ukraine.
Man,
I'm
interested
for you.
Well, I'm interested in any video where a CIA operative would, one, identify themselves as a CIA operative.
They didn't. She identified him, and they had previously identified his tattoos.
I'm gonna try to find the tattoos.
Yes, because they had noted that he was fighting in Ukraine. They had videos of him fighting in Ukraine.
And they know he's a CIA operative because...
And then they found other information from inside that are patriots that identified him as a CIA operative.
Oh, the Patriots did. Well, okay. I mean, look, it's Laura Loomer. She just oozes credibility. I will go out there and try to find her video. But can we get to the question? Hang on, Joe. Can we get to? Well, listen, man. I'm telling you, I'll be happy to try to put Billy on the scent of tracking down this video. But let me ask you, the Ken Buck letter, thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to go to that, but I want Tony to answer why his lying eyes and ears.
We can't do caller back. We can't do caller back and forth.
The Nazis
we just can't do it.
Saying that they support Biden.
Listen,
okay,
Joe, we can't do the back and forth with that.
Just
but
a moment,
get to the letter.
Julie Kelly has anecdotal evidence of J6 prisoners that were denied their due process. I don't deny that Ken Buck is right, that they've all been charged. Okay, Ken Buck. Yes, he is an anti-Trumper. He may not be a never-Trumper, but he's an anti-Trumper.
Okay, but how does that change the facts? You just said he was right.
No, I said he was right that they have been charged, but here's where he's wrong.
Okay.
Can he say that they've been fairly treated by blind justice, for example? Were they held without bail? How many of the protesters for the George Floyd protest
Joe, back
were
up.
held without
you're shotgunning this
No,
thing.
you're not answering the question.
You haven't asked a question. You've just vomited up a bunch of stuff.
I just asked you a question, but you were too busy interrupting me to hear it.
Joe, remember, too, that this is a question that was initially asked to you as, tell me about Ken Buck's letter, and then you've shifted into, tell me about the BLM protesters.
I'll say it again. Yes, Ken Buck, you were right about that they have been charged, but they were held unduly compared to protesters of other riots like the George Floyd riot.
Where do you see that?
Where
How do
I
you know
see that? I'm going to say it again. There were little old ladies held without bail because they entered the Capitol with a flag. Really? Come on.
Buddy, do you disagree with the facts in Ken's letter? And if so, which one? So far, the only one you've referenced you agreed with. What's the stuff that he put in there that you disagree
with? Is that poor Ken Buck, who's going to get primaried in the next election,
It won't matter.
is
He's
going
going
to
to win.
is going to lose because of
He's
this
not gonna
reason.
lose.
30% of Republicans aren't going to vote for Ken Buck because we're tired of his anti-Trumper.
Can you rather than attack Ken, talk about the facts in the letter? Now, what you've said is that you don't think that these guys were treated fairly when compared to BLM protesters. Whether that's
exactly right.
Whether that is or isn't true is not addressed in Ken Buck's letter. He's not saying.
I understand. He avoided the obvious.
He's not avoiding anything. He's responding. Joe,
unequal justice.
He's responding to the original letter from the vice chair. And all I'm asking you to do is to tell me which facts in that response you disagree with and why.
No, I actually say that Ken Buck, that part of his letter is true. The problem is he has the lie of omission. What he's not saying is that the Justice Department has unfairly prosecuted the J6 protesters versus all other liberal protesters.
Buddy, that's not what the first letter was about.
Well, I understand. I think his
hold
letter
on.
is good.
But
Why
Joe,
doesn't he
if that's
write a
true,
letter?
how is he? Joe,
Excuse me,
you've accused him of lying by omission. What did he omit from his response?
I'm telling you, again, it's the unequal application of justice. Arresting little old ladies for carrying a flag into the Capitol is not what we should be doing. How about the thousands of FBI and Capitol Police that have been involved in arresting little old ladies with a flag, but they let sex offenders go? Excuse me. It's ridiculous.
Joe,
the idea.
Joe, you're doing that thing again where it's like,
prosecuting-
look, I don't want to address your question, George. What I will do instead is shift to some other story or narrative that I want to tell that supports my point that the FBI, every single one of them, are horrible human beings. They're not true Americans, and we should burn the whole institution to the ground because they're bad, 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 bad. I get it. I understand what you're saying, Joe, but it sounds like the answer to my hang on, Joe. It sounds like the answer to my question is I don't have a single fact in Ken Buck's letter that I can disprove or with which I disagree. However, I wish Ken had addressed something that was not in the initial letter he responded to, and because he didn't, I find him incredible. Is that fair?
See, that's where I'll answer you with this. There was video of undercover police and FBI helping coerce protesters to enter the Capitol enter the Capitol. The video showed that they were ushering them in. But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. How can we have a Justice Department that prosecutes these to the utmost? But when they ignore, they let everyday murderers free on no bail.
What are you talking about, man? What murderers?
Well, I'm trying to tell you it's happening.
Joe, give me an example of a murderer let go without any bail. Name me one.
It's happening every day in
Give
Washington,
me one then.
D.C.
It must be super easy. Google it and text it in.
Actually, I'll give you a long list of previously suspected assailants of murder let go on no bail that went to go and violate with either even worse. Do I have them in the top of my head, George? No.
Joe, I'll need that list from you, man. If you can somehow figure out a way to text that in, we'll take it.
I'd like to ask you a question. Where are the videos? Why are you not discussing the videos of Ray Epps and the undercover FBI ushering the protesters in, helping them go in and coercing them to go across the lines, the barriers into the Capitol? Why are you not bringing that up?
Well, a couple things. One, Epps has already been addressed a million times. He's actually suing for some of this stuff. I presume the videos you're talking about are the ones that Tucker claims to have that he hasn't revealed, but bigger than that.
We've seen them.
Bigger than that.
We've seen the videos of the undercover police.
Joe, my God, man. Bigger than that, none of that addresses the topic, which is Ken Buck's letter that has got you to call in and talk about everything other than the fact. And Joe, I got to let you go, man, because once again, I give you way, way more time than I give most every caller. And a lot of people text in and they're disappointed in that, but I like the conversation, Joe, I do. But None of that addresses the fact that you have nothing to disagree with in Ken's letter other than things you wish he had put in it that aren't there. And so in response to that, you shifted gears to, why aren't you talking about Ray Epps? Yawn fest on the Ray Epps thing. I don't see anything that piques my interest. And spoiler alert, that's why I talk on the radio, talk about things that interest me and I hope interest you. But I'm not here to take direction from you, man. 303-696-1971 is the number. I want to cut away for a break so that we can get those. Well, lines are already filled up with, again. Here's some texts. Just amen. Well, what does that mean? Well, where's the facts? Here's one. Joe is right. Buck's letter is a travesty. Typical political hit job. Texter, what does that mean? It's a hit job in what way? Guy takes a letter that has no facts, that makes a bunch of assertions, and then says, here are the facts that refute them. And your response is typical political hit job. Prove it. Prove it. You said these people are charged, not convicted, but will be convicted because it's DC. Well, what does that mean then? Nobody can be prosecuted in Washington, D.C. if they're a Republican because you can't get a fair trial? Bunch of people pleaded guilty. Bunch of people went to trial, helped pick the jury. They can't seem to get treated fairly. What's the new rule then, Texter? That if you're a Republican accused of a crime in D.C., you must be tried in Florida. You must be tried in Texas. Is that the new rule because you can't get a fair trial in Washington, D.C.? How about the guy that was acquitted? How did that happen? Just as John Wayne once said, once I heard the director say the masses, he knew he was dealing with a communist. Now it's the blank community and people of color, along with you're a racist or a blank a phobe. I'm not even sure what that's a reference to. So he wants little old ladies treated differently. Sounds like uneven application of the law. Isn't that what we're unequivocally against? That's a very insightful comment there. Good morning. The reason people are reacting to you this morning is that they voted for someone who was not a politician and promised that he was going to do the things he said he would do. Did he do all of them? Maybe. Nope. We don't have to maybe that. He did not do all of them. But remember, the response to that is not his fault. He did not live up to his promises and fulfill them because the deep state, which he had sworn to dismantle, was much worse than he possibly thought. And all of the people he appointed to help him turned out to be snakes and backstabbers. So this genius businessman who's filed bankruptcy 4 times, this genius can't surround himself with people loyal enough to help him accomplish his task. But if we elect him again, by God, he'll find them. He'll find the ones that can be loyal this time. Back to the text. Did Trump do things wrong? Yes. But when someone's been attacked like he has, it makes it difficult for us to understand why we have a 2-tier justice system. What's the tier? What's the tier? This has a lot to do with our media coverage. Yeah, I agree with that. The media sucks. This is what people are seeing. I will give you a quick analogy. You live next door to someone that plays their music really loud, and so you start playing your music really loud, but the authorities keep coming to your house to tell you to turn your music down, but they don't say anything to your neighbor. It's really hard to believe that the law is equal, even though it might be. Have a good day. Well, you know what ought to happen is everybody on the block ought to blast all of their music loud enough until what? Everybody moves away. Everybody decides they don't want to live on that block anymore. The tit for tat analogy is horrific for the idea of the rule of law. You find an injustice, you address that injustice. You don't meet injustice with injustice. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, does it strike anyone as weird that some of you out there are parroting the words of that crazy fanatical Tim Hernandez that just got appointed? That's what everyone's saying. Crazy, fanatical, violence-loving guy won't disavow violence as a response to oppressed people. You sing the same song that dude does. I mean, this is ideology free, folks. This is just, well, we want to be in power and we know we're right. And if the only way to accomplish that is violence or to burn down all of our institutions, by God, we'll do it. If we don't like Ken Buck's letter, then we'll just simply disavow the facts without having any of our own. We'll blame the messenger. He got facts from left-leaning media. I don't have anything to contradict them, but because they come from a messenger I disagree with, I know the letter's full of crap. But sit back and try to think through this thing. I'm not telling you there aren't facts to the contrary, and we're trying to get this Julie Kelly. But come on, man. Here's another one. No fair trial in D.C. District Court, period. And my proof is that these people are being convicted. That's the proof. because Washington, D.C. can't be trusted for anything, especially juries. How does anybody get convicted in Washington, D.C. if they aren't guilty? Is it just because they show up and they eyeball you and go, Republican, guilty, Democrat, not guilty? Is that how you see it going? Oh, look, we'll come back. We'll get to the calls. Jacqueline, Joan, whoever Billy's talking to right now. But before we do, can I tell you about my teeth? It's the least stressful thing we'll talk about this morning. That's right, going to the dentist. Less stressful than this right now, trying to deal with belief and faith and what facts don't exist, but they should exist, or I imagine they exist. Here's what's true. This is a fact. I love my dentist, Doctors Richter and Snyder. I've been down there a couple times already, got another appointment coming up. I do the 2 times a year regular thing with them because, man, they just make it so peaceful. They just make it so stress-free. They have good-natured people down there. They're family-oriented people. Hell, I think Dr. Snyder just had a kid either last month or this month, maybe. They're good folks that are positioned right there in the middle of America, right there in Douglas County, off of Parker Road and Stroh Road. You can get to them from anywhere pretty easily. These are the kind of folks that put you at ease, not just because of the way they deal with you, but because you know when you talk to them, these guys are experts in what they do. And they do all the cool stuff. They do the Invisalign. They do the crowns, the bridges. They do all the heavy lifting that you can imagine. But really what they want you to do is come in and get that regular checkup twice a year. Make your great smile even greater. Go visit them at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com, or give them a call and make the appointment. Try them out. Take a break from your dentist. Just once. Just take a break. See what it's like. My guess is you'll be sold. You won't go back. 303-841-7466. 303-841-7466. When we come back, the calls, the texts, the you, the me, the heart medications. George Brauchler, the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
That is brand new Rolling Stones, dropping somewhat fitting for this morning's conversations back and forth on the phone and on the text on the George Show on 710 KNUS. The title of that just now dropped track, Angry. You couldn't tell from the lyrics. It seems like that a lot, man. And here's some of the text. And again, George sounds like a Democrat in Republican clothing. It's clever. So I said, prove that. What Democrat principle do I espouse? No answer there. Instead, it's just, you're delusional. I say, prove your accusations. They say, I can't prove Chris Cuomo is what he is either. I just know I don't like it. And I see a lot of similarities in your style and his. Sorry, not sorry. You don't need to be sorry. If you're going to apologize for something, apologize for going off of just belief and no facts. Tell me what principle I've espoused that isn't a conservative principle. Still looking, still waiting, man. I get it. You think I'm Chris Cuomo. You can look at Chris Cuomo and have a whole bunch of disagreements with him, but my guess is you don't know a single position he holds other than his opposition to Trump. And once again, I will not be defined by a single human being. I will not be defined by the MAGA movement or Trump. I will be defined by the principles that I have followed, supported, and as an elected official, put forth as a Republican. No former abortion-loving Democrat who is now converted to a Republican is going to tell me what it means to be a conservative. That includes DJT. That includes you too. You think I'm not Trump enough? That's probably true. You think that makes me not a conservative? Well, then you and I disagree on what conservative is. But the question of the day is Ken Buck's letter. Hopefully, we've got the wicked smart callers here at 710 that are going to help refocus us back on that. Jacqueline, you're on 710 KNUS. How are you?
Oh my God! I almost hung up. I'm
so glad you didn't. I'm so glad you didn't.
Listen, I want to just say mine real quick here.
Sure.
I have always voted for Ken Buck. I've always liked him as a person. I've met him years ago, but I'm going to tell you something. And I think he did believe what he wrote in that letter. I think Ken Buck believed what he was being told. The source was Merrick Garland, which I don't trust. But I will say this: his letter came a little too late to really get my attention, because he should have been investigating this a long time ago. I take what Senator Jim Jordan says before I say anything over Garland or Buck, because Jim Jordan tried to get in there to see and check on that, because he was contacted by family members that were not allowed to find out if their family, where they were or anything else. And that was the truth. And that was, I think they had a hearing before Congress over that. And I'm not sure of the dates. I am going to get a notebook and I'm going to start writing this stuff down, date and time for you.
Well, I love it.
I know that there's been just so much of it.
Jacqueline, can I ask, because another friend of mine, wicked smart person, said, hey, why hasn't Ken Buck to go visit these people? And I guess my question is, what superpowers do we think that congressmen have that they can just show up to some jail and announce, I'd like to see Joey Jojo Jr. Shavadu. Let me in.
Well,
why do we think we get to do that?
Because it was a political thing. George's whole thing's been political.
Except it's criminal. It may have political overtones for sure, and even political motivation, but it's a criminal thing. Like, do you think that if Jim Jordan showed up to, Supermax and said, I demand to see KSM, that the prison would be like, oh my gosh, well, it's Jim Jordan. Hey, everybody, bring KSM forward. Someone in Congress has demanded to see them. We must treat them differently than everybody else.
No. But the thing is, now you're wanting everybody to take what Buck said at face value. I believe Ken Buck did believe what he was doing.
No, I'm saying he cited stuff in the letter, Jacqueline, and I'm saying if someone disagrees with it, come forward with different facts. But even you're saying, I disagree with the messenger of the facts that he put in his letter. I don't know why. Maybe it's because you're like, hey, they're left-leaning media, but come up with different facts. Well,
the thing is, Merrick Garland, I don't trust. And this two-tier justice system, I don't care where you live in this country. If this, and I'll say this and I'll end it. I don't care about Donald Trump. I don't care what he has done. I don't care what he has said or anything else. I support what he stands for. And that's what Make America Great Again is all about. And his supporters stand for that. And when we see people that don't back that up, well, we think, well, maybe they are not as quite as honest. They just get along to go along, most politicians. And I'll say that about Ken Buck. I honestly think that he just gets along to go along. A lot of them
But based on what, though? Based on what has he done that makes you think that?
I don't think he's been strong enough to help him. I think he has.
Hold on. You broke up on me, Jacqueline. You don't think he's been a strong enough supporter of what?
the Republican Party in Colorado. Colorado's full of Tony the Tigers. Look at the state. Look at the state of Colorado. I rest my case.
Who has he not been supportive of party-wide?
Well, I don't think that he has been supportive enough of Donald Trump.
Well, that's it.
And
And Jacqueline, thank you
don't
for
have
that.
to like them. You don't have to like the messenger, but you like what they stand for, and that's what people support Donald Trump for.
Yeah.
No, and
Jacqueline, I appreciate the call, and as always, you say it like you believe it, and I really appreciate that. And thank you for staying on hold. And I think at the end, though, you said exactly what it was. You don't like Ken Buck, not because he doesn't fight for the Republican Party, not because he doesn't fight for Republican principles, because he isn't Trump enough. And that's what all this stuff comes down to, is we don't like Ken Buck's letter, not because we have opposing facts, but because those facts are contrary to the narrative that we have. And I get it, but that can't be the way forward for us. It can't be, well, my gut tells me, or I've been told, or I believe. I just want something else, man. And so far, nobody has had any contrary facts. Maybe Joan will. Joan, you're on 710 KNUS. How are you?
Good morning, George. I'm
Morning,
so glad you think I'm wicked smart, because I said, why hasn't Ken Buck gone to the jail to visit?
Yeah.
But here's a fact for you.
Yep.
And it's right in the middle of Ken Buck's letter.
Okay.
So Ken Buck is saying, you're claiming that they're not getting medical treatment, and you're claiming that somebody was not looked at properly, and you're claiming that somebody died. And then he goes on to say, well, this was brought forth in front of a federal judge in January of 2021, and the federal judge said, yep, that's what happened, and I'm going to hold you prison officials in contempt.
Yes.
And I'm tired of the two-justice system.
Well, hang on, Joan, before we get to the two-justice system, and I do want to hear what you have to say about that. So Ken puts that in the letter. Do you believe him?
What he puts in that I believe that's true. And
okay, so are there parts of the letter that he puts in that you don't believe? Like, I believe that part, but not the other parts.
And the next thing he says in that paragraph is, well, it might have been only one valid thing, and it might have just been one person.
He doesn't use that kind of equivocal language. What he says is, and I'm reading, there is no evidence that this is a widespread occurrence or that it happened as a result of Mr. Worrell's status as a January 6th defendant. So he's not saying it might have been this or it might have been that. He's saying there's no evidence.
There's nothing to see here.
No, it's just,
and
that's just the end of the paragraph. I'm not cheating you out of anything. That's the end of the paragraph. There's no evidence. That's what he's saying.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking there must have been some evidence, because a federal judge held some people in contempt. And here's the reason.
But he conceded that point and actually put it in his letter, Joan. He's the one that alerted you to that. Huh?
And as a healthcare professional, I have seen what goes on in jails here in Colorado.
Okay.
I worked in Denver Health and Hospitals.
Okay.
And you cannot tell me that they have the Stanford top physician in the jail system watching over these people.
Well, wait a minute. What does that have to do? What does your experience in jails have to do with the allegations made about the January 6th defendants in Washington, D.C.?
They're not getting proper health care. And the reason they're not getting proper health care is because nobody wants to acknowledge them.
But hang on, are they not getting it because it's a jail and it's a crappy run jail? Or are they not getting it because they're January 6th defendants? That matters.
No, it doesn't.
What?
When it comes to health, it doesn't matter.
No, hang on. But it does matter to the purpose of the vice chair's letter from El Paso. His point was they're being treated differently and worse than other defendants because they're January 6th defendants. And what you're saying is jails suck. I get it. But if it's not about them being January 6th defendants, it's not that it's irrelevant, but it's irrelevant to this discussion.
Okay. There's one fact that he said this is it might be valid, and it went to a federal judge. He's covering it up. Here, let's put it down on the floor. Let's put down welcome mat over it.
For
And
what now?
make sure that a welcome mat, when you put things under
No,
the rug.
which part are you talking about?
I'm talking about Ken
Yeah.
admitting that there might have been some validation to that fact.
He doesn't even say might have. He comes out and says there is, and this is his sentence, no equivocation, no mights. There has been at least one valid allegation of abuse. So this is a guy that's coming forward and saying, Joan, there was a valid claim of abuse. Not there might have been. He's not equivocal or squishy. He came right out and said it. But then he follows it up with, there's no evidence that this is a widespread occurrence or that it happened because Mr. Worrell's a January 6th person. And what I hear you saying is, I agree with your first part of that paragraph, but the last sentence I don't agree with. How come?
Because it has to do with opinion. It is his opinion.
That there's
it's
no
not
evidence?
Widespread. There's no evidence. There's evidence because it went to court.
I know, but
George,
where's your evidence that's contrary?
Area.
No, it's not an opinion. Where's the evidence that it's widespread? Where's the evidence that it happened to Mr. Worrell?
Does it have to be widespread?
Well, that was what the claim was in the letter he was responding to, Joan.
I'm telling you that this is just another, don't follow it, don't look away, it's not that important. And I'm just telling you, a principled person wouldn't say that.
Well, a principled person wouldn't respond to a letter making allegations with facts that refute those allegations. A principled person would not do that?
George, how many people signed that letter?
200 people took this guy at his word, and now Ken Buck comes forward with facts, and you're like, that's not a principled position. What would a principled person have done? What should Ken have done with this information? Joan, let me finish the question. If Ken had this information, is it more principled for him to sit on his hands and let people get all lathered up and demand action based on things that he doesn't believe because of the facts? Or should he have come forward and said, hey, man, this is what I know. These are the facts. What's more principled?
I'll tell you what's more principled. Coming forth in February or January of 2021 about this health allocation and waiting until, I don't know, it becomes an issue in another election. It's
what?
Just,
I don't understand what you're saying.
I know you don't understand, George, because it's too deep. So
it's not deep, man. Joan, it's not deep at all. It's just.
Thank you for understanding that it was a fact.
Joan,
there you go.
Joan, I don't know what there you go means. And thank you for the phone call as always. Joan's line is open at 303-696-1971. We'll get to Brian in a moment. But I don't understand the there you go. And there's a lot of this dismissive stuff on text too. People that are like, well, you're just a rhino. Please come forward with the evidence. Not, well, that's my gut feeling. You remind me of Chris Cuomo. Why? I don't know, but he doesn't like Trump either. I mean, this is all what it comes down to. You don't like Ken Buck's letter because it doesn't feed the narrative that Trump people are all treated disparately. We have a two-tiered system based on Trump and not Trump, which is provably false. But we're just going to come on here and then say, George, you don't get it. You just don't get it. You just don't get it. All I'm asking for is evidence. Just evidence. That's it. And what Joan has told me is there's a part of Ken Buck's letter that is absolutely 100% correct, but the next sentence is not. And it's not because I have an opinion that it's not. What? 303-696-1971 is the number. We've got to cut away for a break so that we can come back and get Brian and the other callers. But I got to tell you about our buddies at QC Kinetix. There's pain. Some of it's on the radio. And they can't cure all that pain. But what they can do is use you through regenerative medicine. That's use parts of your body, the good parts that are working, to put them in the parts that aren't working the way that they used to or they should be, and help to fix you through that process. QC Kinetix, man, they've figured this thing out, and they have done it on a huge scale, border to border, coast to coast. The rave reviews they get from people who have done it, you can just go to the website and check them out, qckinetics.com, qckinetics.com. They'll keep you from having to go under the knife. They give you that option. Can you imagine being told you can either take a whole bunch of pills forever, or you can be surgically opened up, run the risk of infection and the long recovery period? Can you imagine only having those two options? That's so old school. How about do something modern like QC Kinetics does? Something that works, something that puts you back on your feet and enjoying your life, your family. much more quickly. That's qckinetics.com. And you can easily call them and ask their local medical professionals the question. I'm going to say the number 3 times so you can write it down. 303-900-8986. 303-900-8986. 303-900-8986. That's QC Kinetics. When we come back, you, me, Brian, text George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Dan Caplis, superstar, superhero of sorts. If he could wear a cape in the courtroom, he probably would, but he doesn't need to fly around to win for you. He just stands up and gives what we're talking about right here on the show today, and that is the T, the truth. And the truth is, if you've been victimized by somebody's negligence, their recklessness, their, I don't know, sometimes intentional conduct, don't care if it's an individual or a giant company, dude is unafraid. Dude is the David to their Goliath. And again, he brings the truth, and that's what they don't want. What they don't want is the truth, because the truth leads to justice, and justice means they're going to have to try to figure out a way to make what their person did or what they did to you right. And in this system, they can't give you back all the pain-free life that you had before. They can't replace everything that was stolen or broken, but what they can do is to provide you the means by which you can try to accommodate for what happened. And so the T leads to the J, and that's where you get to DJC. That's Daniel J. Caplis. It's the show, folks. Dan J. Caplis and Barbara Wahid, they've been killing it for years. They want to do it for you. If you need their help, they're no better person to call. 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or dancaplislaw.com. That's Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Brian from Arvada, close us out, my man. Tell us what's going on.
Hey, yeah, I don't have access to this letter, but is he trying to say that Garland's like an honest actor and all this? Or?
Nope. Never references Garland or the Department of Justice a single time.
But he's taken their word for it? Or?
Nope, not a thing. Man, that's the problem is you need to take a look at the letter. I'm sorry you didn't hear it. You can go back in the 7 o'clock hour. I read huge portions of it. What he's done is he's addressed a letter that came from the vice chair of the El Paso County GOP party and taken it apart kind of fact by fact, saying you claim all these things are happening. Here's what the evidence is. You claim this is happening. Here's what the evidence is. He acknowledges the bad things, but really points out that none of it is widespread, conspiratorial. There aren't huge numbers, all that other stuff. Never mentions Garland. Never mentions DOJ.
Okay. Well, and I don't know enough about that, but do you believe that Garland's an honest actor? What does your gut tell you? Do you think he just has a blind eye for justice, or do you think he's corrupt as all get up?
I don't know if he's corrupt as all get up, but I don't think he should be the Attorney General of the United States. And I think he's shown himself to be pretty ineffective in the decision-making he's engaged in. Whether he's corrupt as to every single thing he does, I don't know, man. I don't know that about anything.
As far as I'm going after Republicans, but protecting Democrats, do you think at least he does that? Can you give me that much or no?
Yeah, I wish that both he and his Republican predecessors had taken a more aggressive approach to Hillary and some of the other things, but why they didn't, you're going to have to ask Donald Trump and Joe Biden why they didn't. Hey, Brian, you closed us out, my man. Thank you for doing that. We'll be back tomorrow. Going to have Jimmy Graham on the show. Looking forward to that. Maybe even Ken Buck, maybe even Julie Kelly. We'll see what magic Billy can come up with. Take a listen to the podcast. Stick around for the rest of the day. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.